the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. The week starts here. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, March the 16th. Here's what's coming up. With a sickening inevitability, our two-tier cops are investigating Bob Vylan singer Pascal Robinson Foster for repeating his notorious Glastonbury anti-Semitic chant, "Death, death to the IDF," at yesterday's pro-Iran Al-Quds demo in central London. He was on stage. It's on tape. What's to investigate? Is this ludicrous little man allowed to spew his Jew hatred, or is he not? Is it legal or against the law? I wonder what the pro-Palestine Met Police will decide. Countdown to pound store rebel Pascal's exoneration for a second time. Would the police be quite so diffident if our hero had chanted "Death, death to the Muslim faith"? Somehow I doubt it. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. In other news, Keir Starmer says no to Donald Trump's urgent request to help unblock the Strait of Hormuz, the 25-mile channel through which 20% of the world's oil was shipped, until Iran closed it down. To Starmer's snub, the president responded, "We will remember." If the strait is not reopened pretty damn soon, the effect on the world economy, including Britain, will be disastrous, catastrophic in fact. So far, inaction man Keir has sent 8 sailors to the war zone while, at last spotting, HMS Dragon was bobbing about pointlessly in the English Channel. Should the UK get more involved? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, one day before Starmer vowed to assist homes that can't afford spiralling heating oil costs, that madman Miliband tours the TV studios, insisting now is the time to double down on pursuing his nut zero fantasy that Britain can be powered by windmills and solar panels alone, which is simply nonsense. What can we do about Crazy Ed? 0344 499 1000. Also today, Kent becomes the first council to refuse to accommodate any more cross-channel migrants. The astonishing story of how 2 uniformed Islamic horsemen of the Ayatollah came to patrol Manchester as if they were some sort of Sharia enforcement squad, and the bombshell book sending shockwaves through royal circles while enraging Harry and Meghan. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together, and let's go straight over to my first guest. She is, of course, Talk's brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi, Kev. I was just amused at your depiction of HMS Dragon bombing around. It's not doing any such thing, though, is it? It's just kind of pootling around, slightly.
Well, no, bobbing around.
You said bombing.
No, bobbing. No, it's bobbing around. It came out of Portsmouth Harbour was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it was Tuesday. 8 days after Keir Starmer had deployed it to Cyprus. 8 days. And apparently got into the channel and then, as I say, bobbed around doing circles, with the Navy explaining, well, sometimes when you're getting a ship ready for a long voyage, the last of the preparations are done at sea. So it didn't proceed directly to Cyprus. It proceeded about 10 miles out into the channel, whereupon it went round in circles for a bit, with a bit more welding being done. That is so far our effort. We've sent sort of half a warship, because it's nowhere near the war zone yet, and 8 sailors. Let's get on to that in a second, though, because I want to get your take on what we saw. I know you're in London at the moment, so your take on this will be even more pertinent than usual, because yesterday, of course, we had this Al-Quds demo, a strange protest that was allowed. People, enemies of this country, to be honest with you, demonstrating in favour of the Ayatollah, in favour of Iran. You know, it struck me as a little bit like being in the middle of the Second World War and having a pro-Hitler demonstration. Very strange to allow that when over in East London, the police were busy banning a Boy Scouts St George's Day parade, because they said, we can't possibly police this unless you give us 9,000 quid. So thankfully a local businessman came up with 9,000 quid, but those Al-Quds pro-Iran fan demonstrators yesterday, they weren't charged a penny. What the hell is going on? But what I want to focus on first is that Bob Villan, our friend from Glastonbury, who for reasons that continue to escape me and many others, was let off after he chanted anti-Semitically "death, death to the IDF" on television at Glastonbury. He was let off by the Avon and Somerset police. I don't know why, but he was. Well, he was at it again yesterday, and now the Met Police say they are investigating. What's to investigate? He's on film. He said it. Well, before we discuss this, Samara Gill, our ace reporter, was down there braving this demonstration. She was not well received, as you might imagine. Here's a little taster of what she filmed.
Agree. I'm gonna report it. Because I'm gonna report it as an evidence.
We've got someone getting taken into the back of a van there. We've got people now surrounding. They've broken out of the static protest, kicking off over there. We've got an arrest taking place. Excuse me. All of them.
You know, it's disgusting watching that in the middle of London. These are people, you know, protesting in favour, in support of those mad mullahs, those ayatollahs that killed 50,000 of their own citizens earlier in this month. These are people who prefer the ayatollah to Britain, to America, to our governments, and that's unfolding in the middle of this city. Now, a lot was made, Isabel, of, oh, this is static, we're not allowing them to march. So what? What's the difference? Why did we even allow it? I mean, I'm a sort of libertarian. I want demonstrations to be allowed, whatever they are. But this struck me as virtually treacherous. It was a demonstration against the government of this country and the government of America. This was a demonstration against the West in support of our enemies in the middle of this city. What the hell is going on?
I mean, it is completely extraordinary. And if any of them had actually had the guts to talk to Samara, it would have probably become very rapidly apparent that they don't actually know what it is that they're supporting. Do these people not know the nature of the evil regime that Donald Trump is targeting for very good reason? I mean, it's not difficult to get the evidence of what it is that Donald Trump is trying to get rid of, whether it's in terms of what that regime is doing in terms of developing nuclear weapons or the way they treat their own people. But I strongly suspect that those demonstrators wouldn't have been able to mount any kind of cogent argument in defense of the Ayatollahs. I'm sure they wouldn't. And quite clearly they didn't dare try. Otherwise they would have spoken to Samara.
Well, Samara, as reported, will play by the way, folks, so we're going to play Samara's full footage that she filmed yesterday at 5 o'clock, and we'll get her on the show to get her thoughts about what happened yesterday. But at the centre of it, so once again, my view on these kind of demonstrations, pro-Palestine demonstrations, this, in my view, almost treacherous demonstration we saw yesterday, because I'm a libertarian, I don't like banning things. My view on them philosophically is they should be allowed to happen, but they should be policed properly. If the law is broken, people should be arrested. But once again yesterday, we saw our two-tier coppers at work. Just as they allow these pro-Palestine marches to snake through our cities weekend after weekend, full of illegal chanting about jihad and from the river to the sea, etc., etc. They did it again yesterday. They just stood there and watched people break the law, including our friend Pascal Foster Robinson, or Robinson Foster, whatever his name is, from Bob Villan, standing on the stage and shouting what he shouted at Glastonbury, which was death, death to the IDF. That is an anti-Semitic hate chant. For some reason, the Avon and Somerset police decided that they weren't going to prosecute him for what he said at Glastonbury. Why are the Met Police saying, we are investigating? It's on film. Either they're going to prosecute this guy, or we glean from this situation, it is legal in this country to spew racist hate about Jewish people. Which one is it, Isabel?
It is that they just want to say something to make it go away, and in a few weeks or more likely months' time, they'll tell us that they're not prosecuting this guy. I'm much harder line than you on this, Kev. I actually would not allow marches that involve the waving of foreign flags. Or if you are going to wave a foreign flag, you have to have as many British flags as you do foreign flags. I think this has gone way, way, way too far. And these mass demonstrations involving flags of other countries and regimes are undermining our collective unity, our sense of who we are, and frankly, which country we're in sometimes. I find them hostile, I find them intimidating, and I don't think they actually achieve anything.
No. Look, I respect your viewpoint, and, you know, I would not have a massive row with you about it. It's just deep down, I've just got this horror of banning protests, banning demonstrations, but you may well be right, and I certainly respect your viewpoint. Let's move on. Now, Keir Starmer this morning, you know, announced two things, but we'll get on to the war aspect in just a second. But the main thing he announced, that's why he called an emergency presser at Downing Street, was to announce £53 million worth of support to families, to households that can't afford their heating costs because heating oil, the price of heating oil is spiralling due to the Iran war. £53 million to support families in trouble because of this. OK, fine. At the same time, the day before, yesterday, he allowed that madman, Ed Miliband, to tour the TV studio, saying this is not the time to backtrack on my mad nut zero insanity. We must double down on it. We must double down on it. This is the time to prove that we can become independent of oil around the world and power Britain purely on windmills and solar panels. What part of that is not scientifically possible does Ed Miliband not understand? And what the hell is going on that Starmer is allowing this lunatic to run this country at a time when we cannot be wedded to this ideological virtue signalling nonsense about green claptrap, when there are more important things to worry about, and that is the power and the heating of this country. And we've got to reopen the North Sea oil. We've got to start fracking, and we've got to get rid of this absolute insane, deranged lunatic who's our Nut Zero secretary, right?
Of course. I mean, it's completely and utterly bonkers. And this crisis underlines the nuttiness of it. I mean, I listened to Keir Starmer, and on he went about the right decisions that this government has supposedly taken to make us energy self-sufficient. He made it sound like we're already practically energy self-sufficient, rather than being probably decades away from that position if he's going to rely on solar panels and windmills. And you know, we've got these resources, and the insanity of it is that we are voluntarily not using these resources whilst having to buy them from our neighbouring countries and allies that are actually getting the oil out of the self-same oil fields that we ourselves could be exploiting. It's completely bonkers.
Exactly right. So the North Sea oil fields, which of course he's closed down for us, we're no longer allowed to exploit North Sea oil and gas for virtue signalling reasons, green reasons. However, across the North Sea, Norway is still exploiting them, and Norway is selling us the oil and gas that we could be drilling ourselves. You know, this is Ed Miliband. Now, in times of peace, this is worrying enough. But right now, with the Iran war going on, and we are about to enter what looks like a very serious oil crisis because of the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of the oil that used to flow through that channel, 25 miles of sea off the coast of Iran, is now no longer happening. We are on the cusp of a serious emergency, and we cannot afford Ed Miliband's sort of fantastical sixth form activist nonsense, can we?
No, and we can't afford, I don't think that we can afford Keir Starmer's kind of hands-off, this isn't our problem attitude. I mean, again, I listened to his defence of not getting involved, his attempt to make that sound like the statesman-like thing to do. But the world is too small to be able to opt out in this manner. You know, Trump, we can argue about whether or not Trump has unleashed something bigger than he can handle. He and the almighty powers of the American military may not be able to do what they set out to do in relation to the Straits of Hormuz as they thought they were going to do. So now is the time to be with our allies. That's my personal view. Anything we can contribute to getting that waterway open and passable by tankers, by cargo ships, we ought to be doing. But I'm also very realistic that there isn't much we've got. What we're going to send, HMS Dragon and 8 sailors.
Yeah, well, that's apparently, we have actually sent 8 sailors out there already. So that's our contribution so far. Plus, we've got HMS Dragon, hopefully, has emerged from its bobbing around phase of its voyage to Cyprus and is now maybe actually making its way to Cyprus, whoever knows. And we've got the Prime Minister just standing there saying, you know, I will not get involved in this war. Well, and then in the same breath saying, oh yeah, but we might send some drones, we might send some minesweepers, we might send some submarines to help. You know, so at one point he's saying, well, I'm not getting involved in this war, aren't I? A statesman like, aren't I keeping England out, Britain out of this war? Well, he's not though, is he? You can't just duck and dive like this. But as you say, the ultimate irony is there's no doubt whatsoever we should be doing a hell of a lot more to help America, but we couldn't even if we wanted to. But here's the point, Starmer doesn't want to. This is a real problem, isn't it?
He really doesn't want to, but what we've seen so far about the way the Iranians have responded to the American assault is in any case that you don't have to want to get involved to be drawn in. Look at what's happened to the United Arab Emirates, which has taken by far the heaviest brunt of the missiles and the ballistics, the drones that have been lobbed out by these mad Iranians. They've taken more than Israel, and yet the UAE has never fired on Iran. So you don't get to choose when war comes to you. And Keir Starmer obviously is trying to paint himself as the antithesis to Tony Blair. You know, you even cite, learn from Iraq, we're not going down that route. Oh, I'm sure that's all very populist. You know, most people don't want wars. I don't want wars. People don't vote for war. I get that. My point is we don't get to choose, and we have no idea at this point how bad this is going to get. God willing, maybe somehow or other a solution is found, but I don't see where that is right now, because for whatever of Trump's rhetoric, the Iranians are not under any kind of central command by all appearances and are not going to negotiate.
Yeah, and I'd just like also, once again, for Keir Starmer to stop lying. These are important times, and all he's doing is selling silly little schoolboy lies. No, he's lies, saying, you know, I've kept Britain out of this war, as if he'd been invited to join it. I mean, he was asked was, can I borrow your by Donald Trump? Can I borrow a couple of your runways to launch strikes on Iran? The answer was no, until he changed his mind. Classically, now he's being asked a little bit more, but he was never asked to join the war. And there he was boasting about how he'd brilliantly rejected invitations to join the war. Will this man ever tell the truth about anything?
No. Really?
Well, on that bombshell, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Isabel, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk on Wednesday, if not before. Good to talk to you. Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor there, on a roundup of some of the news. Bob Villan, come on, arrest him. I mean, you know, what are we allowed to go around bellowing anti-Semitic chants at public events? He's done it twice. The Somerset and Avon police, for some reason, exonerated him and said, no, it doesn't meet the criminal threshold. Why not? But they did. They took 6 months to reach that decision. Now we've got the Met Police saying, we're investigating. Well, he's on film. Either this is illegal or it's not illegal. Are you allowed to scream anti-Semitic hate chants at public events? Yes or no? 03444991000. No need to investigate. Just arrest him. Interview him. Seems like he did this, OK? And is Starmer right not to offer any help to America in its mission to unblock the vital, crucial, strategic Strait of Hormuz, through which 25% of the world's oil passes, lots of it hours? This will have a give it a week. If those straits are still closed, give it a week, and we will be in big trouble. Should we mobilise? Should we help America as much as possible in this respect right now, or is Starmer right to refuse to do so? 03444991000. We'll be discussing exactly that next with ex-NATO and Royal Navy Commander Rear Admiral Chris Parry. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Kevin.
Let me just play you this. This is Keir Starmer on not joining the offensive against Iran. This was this morning.
I want to make one final point, because moments like this also tell you about leadership. Whether to commit British troops to military action is the most serious responsibility for any Prime Minister. I have been attacked by some for my decision not to join the offensive against Iran. But at every stage, I've stood by my principles, principles which I held just as strongly when it came to debate about the Iraq War in 2003. Principles which I believe are shared by the British people, that our decision should be based on a calm, level-headed assessment of the British national interest.
So, Chris, two things there. He's obsessed. Labour, this sort of new old Labour government, are obsessed with not repeating, as they see it, the grave mistakes of Tony Blair by getting into bed with America. So they're obsessed with proving the difference between them, Starmer's Labour, and Blair's Labour, as if the public give a flying damn. They really don't. But that is Starmer's little world. And the other question I'd like to ask you, more pertinently, in terms of what he just said, at what point did America and Israel ask Britain to join the assault on Iran, the attack on Iran? At what point did that happen? I would contend it never happened. So he's saying, I took the statesmanlike decision not to get Britain involved. We weren't asked. We were just asked if the states could borrow our runways, and ridiculously, damagingly, Starmer said no. But we were never asked to join this war. He is mischaracterising our position, isn't he?
Well, Kevin, he's gaslighting us all. There's no question about that. He's claiming that he's not throwing any fuel on a fire that hasn't even been started yet. The fact of life is he's an appeaser, and he deliberately confuses the context that's happening now with what happened under Tony Blair. If it had all gone well for Tony Blair, he'd probably be saying, well, I'm going to copy what he's doing. He's hanging on to his job by his fingernails. We all know that. But the fact of life is, you're right. You know, he's mischaracterizing what's going on in the Gulf right now. We were never asked to join. We were simply asked to provide facilities, which are the airfields, as you know, at Diego Garcia and in Gloucestershire and Lakenheath. That's it. Nobody's pushing him into it. What he's also confusing is the fact that we've never been asked to take part in offensive action. What we should be thinking about, though, is keeping an international strait open. To close an international strait to shipping that is not involved in a combatant action is against international law. And suddenly, he doesn't seem to think that Iran is culpable in that respect. So it's up to the free world, ourselves, and those who have an interest in keeping that international strait open to actually contribute forces to do it. They don't have to take part in the war against Iran. It's simply keeping an international strait open, just like the Straits of Gibraltar, the Straits of Malacca, or indeed the English Channel.
Now, you know, I'm a supporter. I like Donald Trump. I'm a supporter of Trump, basically, and I'm a big fan of America. And I've got no problem with bombing the hell out of the worst regime on the face of the earth, as in Iran's. And as for the timing, it may well have been the case that Iran wasn't long off nuclear capability. And that's why America and Israel decided this was the time to knock them out. So I've got no problem with any of that. And when you plan for a war, it's very, very complicated. You cannot foresee all outcomes. But was this America's plan, Chris, as far as you can work out, to let, you know, Iran were always going to close the Straits of Hormuz to all but their own and their friendly nations shipping. So they're talking about letting China through and their own ships as well, maybe even France. But anybody they deem to be an enemy, you can't go through. So did not Trump foresee this? And was his plan actually to just get to this point and then turn around to the woke EU nations and say, hey, can you help us? We need you to help unblock the Straits of Hormuz. Was that his plan? Because if that was his plan, it's not very good.
No, Kevin, it wasn't that, and that's what the Iraq War was characterized by. The Americans would kick the door down, get rid of Saddam, and there was this assumption that their allies would come in and then, help from behind. That never happened, so they can't have assumed that this time. I think what happened is, I think the American administration probably thought that by now the Iranian regime would have come to terms and that the issue with the Straits of Hormuz wouldn't have come about. The fact of life is they will have factored it in, but I think they think it's a secondary issue, to tell you the truth. The Americans have got enough firepower to deal with the Straits of Hormuz. There's no question about that. It needs some allies on the political front, and I think everybody's casting around saying, well, actually, how many of us have got warships that could actually survive in that high-intensity environment? I don't think any European nations, countries have, to tell you the truth. One of the reasons I think we're being very sort of guarded and we're holding back is because our politicians know that we don't actually have the military capability to survive in a high-intensity warfare environment.
Yeah, I mean, that's in a sense. I mean, I think you should help your allies in their hour of need. So I think we should be there with America right now. But of course, it's sort of an academic discussion, isn't it? Because what have we got? One warship that at last count was said to be, and I quote, bobbing around in the English Channel.
Well, it wasn't quite doing that, Kevin. It was actually doing the final training and stores that it needed to do before.
Well, that isn't impressive, is it, Chris? After 9 days.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, what we've got to do is criticise the readiness levels, which were effectively low. Yeah. But there is an issue here where people are saying, oh, well, we can't go in harm's way because it's not safe. I would remind people that we put our warships in harm's way in the Falklands. Indeed, we lost 7 warships in order to get the job done. I'm afraid warships and their ships companies are built and trained to go in harm's way. And to say it's too much risk, I'm afraid, is not a sufficient excuse.
I'm glad you said that, Chris. I'm glad you said that, because there was some former defence chief saying, well, if we send our warships, Britain and indeed other European countries to the Strait of Hormuz, the quote was, it will be too risky. Well, isn't that the whole point? That's why you send in warships, to make it less risky for ships that aren't warships. Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah, I mean, one of the prime tasks of the Royal Navy is to protect our trade and commerce. I'm afraid if we don't do that, there's no point in having a navy, to tell the truth. And the fact of life is, war is always risky. You're never, ever going to go into a perfectly safe environment when weapons are flying around and you've got uncertainty. As I said, in the Falklands, everybody went in harm's way, took the flak, some ships got sunk, people got killed. When you're in a hostile environment, that's what happens. But I'm afraid to say we've got 500 years of success and victory that we need to remember when we talk about risk in these situations.
Finally, sort of overarching headline on this, to my mind, Britain's response is reluctant but also incoherent. Would you agree with that summary?
Well, there doesn't seem to be a strategy for this. The only strategy seems to be doing nothing and hopefully we'll stay safe. That seems to be the issue. It may well be the government's made the calculation that they want to reduce tensions in the United Kingdom and they want to limit the exposure of British forces to any hostile action. But they've got to think in strategic terms what that means down the track. There's a lot of people that want Donald Trump and the Israelis to fail with regard to Iran. I would suggest that's a very dangerous thought. If Iran is able to recover from this and assert itself in the greater Middle East, we will all suffer in the long term, not just at the petrol pumps, but in terms of terrorism and possible nuclear coercion.
Yeah, it's very worrying times. Good to talk to you, though, Chris. Thank you so much for your time. Rear Admiral Chris Barry there, ex-NATO and Royal Navy commander, saying that our response has just been completely unstrategic. It doesn't make any sense. It's incoherent. As I said, it's also clearly very reluctant. Keir Starmer,
this is when issues of leadership come into the sharp focus. I've taken the decision to keep Britain. Oh, shut up.
I mean, it's pathetic, isn't it? It's making it all about him. All about him. You know, you were never asked to join the war. Stop saying that you brilliantly refused to do so. You know, that's like me saying, well, I decided not to play centre forward for England at football. I've taken the decision not to play centre forward for England, for the England national team. Yeah, Kev, you weren't really asked, you know, on a number of levels. It's ridiculous. What is this little man doing? What on earth? He's lying to us in the middle of a really grave international situation. The Middle East is at war, it is spreading, and we've got a leader, a so-called leader, who's just telling us fibs. It's ridiculous. 03444991000. We'll discuss another aspect of all this when we come back. We're going to talk about, the bizarre spectacle yesterday of that idiot, that crazed madman, Ed Miliband, touring the TV studios, telling us that now is not the time to abandon his nut zero insanity. We've got to double down on it, apparently. Now that the world is at war and the oil supplies are in deep trouble. We've got to double down on windmills and solar panels. Really? That would be the windmills and solar panels that have so far given us the highest fuel prices, energy prices on the face of the earth, Ed. Thank you very much. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We hope to be joined right now by Lord Craig McKinley, Conservative peer, but he's gone off he's also the director of the Global Warming Policy Foundation. In other words, he strikes a common sense note in the mad world of crazy Ed Miliband. But Lord McKinley's gone off to a vote, so we hope he'll be back in a couple of minutes. He's in the House, of course. But in the meantime, let's remind ourselves, Ed Miliband, I watched him yesterday with an increasing sense of horror as he toured the TV studios talking absolute nonsense, his usual green claptrap. Here he is on Laura Kunsberg. He said that fuel duty may be relaxed. There may be a change on that, but nothing concrete. And then he went on to I think this was Sky News. He wanted to talk to Trevor Phillips, where he said that our North Sea drilling policy, as in we must not drill in the North Sea, must continue. Watch this.
Drilling in the North Sea will not take a penny off people's bills. It's not just me. Just a second. It's not just me. It's not just. It's not. No, but it's which you're doing. No. But no. Hang on a minute. It's no. Hang on a minute. It's really important that we have this discussion because some people want to go around and pretend that if we drilled more, prices would go down. That is totally false.
You really do expect two men in white coats to come and grab hold of him and go, come on, Ed, now, come on, let's get you back to your padded cell. Come on, be a good boy. Watch out, folks, he can be dangerous. Serious to the economy. He seriously can. What is he talking about? Of course it would save us a fortune if we reopened North Sea gas and oil. If we started fracking It would save us untold fortunes. We'd have among the cheapest energy prices in the world. He's going around with his windmill and solar panel crap telling us, oh yeah, this is going to make us energy independent. No, it isn't. I mean, he's just spouting absolute garbage and expecting us to believe it. This is the time where we ought to get real, folks, because there's going to be a real oil squeeze pretty damn soon, already happening because of the Straits of Hormuz. And that guy's saying, no, 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 we have to wait 10 years until we're ready with our windmills and solar panels. No, we've got to start using fossil fuels. We've got to start fracking. We've got to reopen our North Sea oil and gas fields and start profiting from them so that we can have cheap prices. This guy's just talking nonsense. Absolute crazy, insane, deranged nonsense. And this guy is a cabinet secretary. It's just terrifying. It is terrifying. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Neil in Buckinghamshire. Hello, Neil. What would you like to say?
Okay, it's about Starmer being a traitor to the country, but also he's a coward. And I've got a suggestion for you. Why don't we all send him a white feather to Downing Street, and then he'll have a sack full of them, and they'll know that what we really, really think of him.
I mean, I wouldn't want to accuse him of being, you know, an outright coward, scared of everything. But what I will say is I think he's a moral coward. He suffers from extreme moral cowardice. He never knows when it's time to do the right thing, as in, hey, America, can we use your runways? No, you can't. Ruining the special relationship at a stroke because he's worried about the Muslim vote. That's moral cowardice. That is his problem.
And also he's a liar.
Yes, there is that. He's a massive liar. He's lying to us. Yeah. He's lying to us today. I kept Britain out of this Iran war. Britain was never invited to join it. He's a gaslighter. He's a liar. He's a moral coward. And I can think of a load of other reasons why, as Kemi Badenoch quite rightly says, this man is just not fit to be our Prime Minister. Neil, I've got to move on, though. Very good call, though. Neil in Buckinghamshire. Very pleased to say that Lord Craig McKinley is now available. Welcome to the show, Lord McKinley.
Yeah, good to see you, Kevin. Yeah, excellent.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming back from that vote so quickly. Yeah, we're talking about Ed Miliband yesterday. I don't know if you watched him touring the studios, TV studios yesterday in all his zealotry. Now, these are difficult times. These are very frightening times. There is an escalating war in the Middle East, the Straits of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil used to be shipped. 200 million barrels a day is now down to a trickle. We are on the verge of an energy catastrophe all over the world, but particularly here in Britain. We have a nut zero secretary, if I can call him that, who is going around saying now is not the time to think about opening up the North Sea oil and gas. Now is not the time to frack it. Now is the time to double down on my vision that Britain can be powered just by windmills and solar panels. A man with that attitude in the midst of what's happening right now, with the power that Ed Miliband has, to my mind, Craig, is absolutely terrifying.
Well, I'd like him to tour the great city of Aberdeen, who are now losing 1,000 jobs a month. I'd like him to tour much of Stoke-on-Trent that is closing down the traditional potteries. I'd like him to tour Teesside, where those huge chemical factories of old that supported so many good jobs. I'd like him to go and speak to those people. But yes, we've got an energy crisis. It's not unusual that we're going to have one. We've had problems with the Strait of Hormuz before. Unfortunately, those days we did have a Royal Navy and the Armilla Patrol to try and do something about it. So what does he do? He's taking an opportunity to say, well, this just proves that we need to get off oil and gas, doesn't it? Well, that's all very well, but his plans to produce more electricity and get us even more on some sort of renewable mad plan will take 20, 30, 40 years.
If we're lucky, Craig, if we're lucky.
Well, if you're lucky that China keep producing the solar panels, if you're lucky that China and others keep producing the wind turbines, if you've got enough steel and cement and concrete to actually build the platforms. We've got a here and now problem. We knew it would be coming at some time, and we are sitting on an oil and gas bonanza field in and around the UK. Norway recognises it. They're actually exploiting even more in the same basin that we occupy. And we are, through total madness, spending £30 billion a year with Norway alone to get the same type of oil and gas that we could be extracting ourselves. Now, this has got to be the most lunatic policy I have ever seen. So, not only have we got the most expensive prices in the world, we're actually saying, well, we know we're going to use oil and gas for a very, very, very long time. And they are from great reporters, I obviously wouldn't usually spend too much time with, like the Climate Change Committee, who I rarely agree with what they output. But on that one, I do agree. We will be using oil and gas for a long time. Now, we need a reality check on energy. Electricity is only 20% of the energy we use in this country. 80% of the energy we use is heating your home with gas, it's putting petrol and diesel in your car, it is industrial processes requiring gas and oil. And that's completely without the feedstock that you require for the chemical industry and pharmaceuticals, which is based on petroleum products. Now, all of that we need. So no matter how much bulking up of renewable energy that Miliband says he can do, that will only get the 20% of electricity. The rest of it, the 80%, haven't even thought about how we're going to replace that. You would need solar farms and windmills probably about 30 to 40-fold where we are today to get anywhere close to providing all of that energy. So my recommendation, and it's recommendation not from me as director of the Global Warming Policy Foundation, the one who set up the Net Zero Scrutiny Group while I was in the Commons, this is even coming from the dear old Tony Blair Institute, recommending that we get drilling quickly, and we become more self-sufficient in the gas and oil that we need. And do you know what I would do? And I've been saying that we should be doing it for years. Let's frack as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about a bit of fracking, you know?
Energy, cheap energy equals growth, equals jobs, it equals investment, and it equals a nice lot of tax for the Treasury. So what are we doing? We're actually importing it from abroad, from regimes that aren't always that stable as we're currently seeing, and we're actually losing all of that balance of payments problem in buying foreign people's oil and gas. It is the stuff of legendary madness.
It's madness, and we are, while Ed Miliband polishes his halo and says, oh, we don't frack. We buy in loads of fracked gas from America, and we no longer drill or exploit the North Sea oil and gas fields, but we buy in North Sea oil and gas from Norway across the North Sea. It is so insane, and what you would have missed the clip that we played earlier in this segment because you were off voting, Craig. But what worries me about this guy, and I'm not I don't want to, be nasty about him or anything, but this guy has got the kind of bog-eyed certitude of the deranged lunatic. And we played a clip where I watched him on Laura Kunsberg, Trevor Phillips. Every time someone like Laura or Trevor tried to say, well, you say that our energy prices will not be made cheaper if we open up the North Sea oil and gas fields, which is obviously they're about to ask a good question. What do you mean by? He's in there like this. He goes, no, let me make this point. It's very, very important. It's very important I make this point. He shut down any logical questions, questioning the lack of logic of his madness. And I honestly think we have to worry about the personality of this man who is doing this job. As I say, he has the bug-eyed certitude of the deranged lunatic. He really does.
I mean, it's the classic response from anybody who's on very, very shallow ground. And I remember when I was in the House of Commons, and we were on the government side, that side, and he was opposition, having a debate on some energy thing. And I would be quizzing him because it was an opposition day debate, and he would put on that pained face of, "Oh, how dare you!"
That's it. That is exactly. Oh, how could you be so pathetically ignorant? Let me explain. Let me enlighten you. No, we are the ones talking sense. You are talking insanity, Ed. Absolute insanity. Craig, I've got to go, but really good to talk to you. Come on again very soon. Thank you very much. Lord Craig McKinley there, talking a lot of sense about what we should be doing with our energy policies. Open up. For God's sake, reopen the North Sea gas and oil fields and start fracking. Honestly, your energy bills, they would be a fraction, a fifth, maybe even less than you're paying now. A fifth. You're going to lose like 80% of what you're paying now. You won't have to pay if we used North Sea oil and gas and started fracking. So that is what Ed is doing to you, costing you a damn fortune. 03444991000. Sorry, I called him Ed there. I should have called him Crazy Ed. Next up, we're going to talk about Kent County Council has become the first council in Britain to declare a national immigration emergency, and as such is refusing to take any more migrants. It will not accommodate any more cross-channel migrants, and it's right on the forefront of it. So that's Kent, Dover, Folkestone, Deal, where they all come in. So that's interesting. We'll talk about that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 3,500 migrants have crossed the channel illegally so far this year. Big week last week and the week before, so they're coming over. Now that the weather's getting a bit better. Now on the front line of our migrant crisis. We're talking about Dover, Folkestone, Deal, those south coast towns in Kent. The council there, Kent County Council, has become the first council, is controlled by Reform, to declare an illegal immigration emergency, and it is fixing to refuse to accommodate any more cross-channel migrants because the government's not doing anything about it. It could be interesting. Let's talk to Deputy Online Editor of The Critic and political commentator Tom Jones. Welcome, Tom. Yeah, interesting move by Kent County Council. OK, it's Reform, but we understand other councils are fixing to follow suit by telling the government, I'm sorry, we will not be accommodating any more of your illegal migrants. This county won't accept them. Kent's on the front line. It's had enough. Interesting tactic.
Absolutely. And I think Reform signalled that they were going to do this very, very early. I think one of the interesting things is that we're seeing a lot more councils basically used as a vehicle to counter the insistence of central government that people, live with and pay for migrants. We've also seen it, of course, in the famous Epping Bell Hotel settlement, which was brought forward as well by a Conservative council. This has been quite a long-term problem for Kent County Council. So Reform are in charge as of, I think, last year. It's now their flagship council because, of course, it's Essex and that's traditionally a Tory council. It's not currently bankrupt, the council, but I think its debt is over 700 million. It's paying 85 grand every day.
Yeah, but is it going to stop the migrants? Is it going to stop the migrants? That's the point. It says it's going to start stopping. It will not accommodate any more migrants on the 19th of March, as of the 19th of March, which is 3 days hence. If they're going to do this, John Cleese, by the way, after this emerged, he tweeted, "Hooray!" So John Cleese, the legendary comedian, is in favour of what Kent Council is doing. I mean, if they go through on this and they tell the government we're not putting up any more migrants, them being on the front line, it'll be very interesting, won't it?
Well, I think on this, John Cleese speaks for the nation. The truth is, Reform, Kent County Council probably can't do this. They can't refuse. They have legal statutory duties that are set by central government. Central government will probably take them to court, but politically...
Yeah, but that doesn't mean... OK, if they take them to court, that still means there's a where to put the migrants problem, isn't it?
It does, but politically, that's a huge, huge win for Reform because they can turn around to their residents and say that Labour are forcing them to spend taxpayers' money on migrants instead of residents. And so that's a great political tactic for Reform and a terrible place for the Labour government to be in.
Yeah, it's a good... Yeah, exactly right. So what is it now? 16th... So Thursday is the 19th. That's when... I don't know what the weather's going to be like later in this week, but if the weather's good, the migrants will come across because the only deterrent is bad weather. There's no other deterrent. So if there's good weather on Thursday and Friday, it might be interesting as to what happens to the migrants that come across if Kent do indeed follow through on their threat not to accommodate these people. Very interesting times, Tom. Good to talk to you. Tom Jones there, Deputy Online Editor of The Critic and political commentator. Do you think more counts? How about every county says, no, we're not accommodating any more migrants? See what the government does about that. Next up, we'll talk about those horsemen in Manchester. Stay tuned.
UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about an extraordinary event in Manchester on March the 4th. So what is that? Best part of a couple of weeks ago, earlier this month. There was a sort of demonstration going on outside the Manchester Islamic Centre. There were mourners holding a candlelit vigil to honour Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's of course now dead, was killed in the first of the US-Israeli attacks on Tehran. So there's these traitors celebrating or honouring, mourning the death of our enemy, the Ayatollah Khamenei. And there were some counter-demonstrators saying, well, what about Britain? How about a bit of patriotism on the other side of the streets? And then into the middle of this rode these two guys on horses in kind of uniforms. Look at them with their peak caps. They look like coppers, don't they? Some kind of militia coppers. This is in Manchester. Look at that. Two horses. What is this? 2026 or 1526, something out of medieval times. And they rode up to the anti-Iran protesters and started indicating like they had to get the hell out of there. The police came in and told them to get the hell out of Dodge. And they kind of disappeared, but nothing was done about these guys. Only later, apparently, a top cop ran one of them to ask if they were okay, if everything was all right. So we have a Sharia law enforcement squad on horseback galloping through Manchester to protect demonstrators who are protesting about the death of the Ayatollah. What on earth is going on? Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Mike, what would you have done when you were serving copper? You see two civilians turn up in uniforms, definitely faux uniforms, on horseback, affecting to bring about crowd control. You stay back, you stay back. We don't want trouble here. Who the hell are they? Why are they dressed in semi-uniforms? They're clearly Muslims. They said, they've been interviewed saying, yes, we are of Iranian descent and we are friends of ours. We're demonstrating for the Ayatollah, but we're not necessarily with them politically. But the police did nothing about this. These guys apparently bought these horses in a horse box, got on them and started trotting around the streets of Manchester as if they were in charge of Sharia law crowd control, and then disappeared. And the only thing the police have done is to ring one of them and ask them if they're okay. What's going on?
Well, it's quite incredible, isn't it, Kevin? And is this another example, I think, of this two-tier policing that we often discuss? Because it's mentioned in the article that somebody said to the police officer, you know, if they turned up with a Union Jack carrying around on the horse, they would have been swiftly dealt with. And it's just a way of enforcing yourself, isn't it? Showing dominance over the whole proceedings, because, you know, the horses are there to dominate. That's why the police use them at football matches and for crowd control, because you're up high and it's quite a frightening thing. Now, my first, if I was on duty there, I would have asked them to get off, and I would have called in my own mounted branch officers to deal with them. And I would have looked at, under the 1936 Public Order Act, it's an offence to wear pseudo-military uniforms. It was brought in to stop Oswald Mosley's black shirts, but we now have a new set of fascists in this country, don't we, who think they can impose their will on other people, and it sends the wrong message that they're in charge and not the police.
And of course, unsurprisingly, people are saying that these two guys styled themselves as an unofficial Sharia law police control act. I mean, that's what they were. They were a police patrol, a Sharia law police patrol. That's definitely what they were doing. They were going up to the anti-Iran protesters and saying, get back, we don't want trouble here. but it was only to them. They didn't go up to the Iranian fans. These are Muslims. They haven't been named, but one of them apparently has been interviewed and insists that they are not Iran fans, although they knew Iran fans in the demonstration to mourn the death of Ayatollah Khamenei. They did know those people. They say they were just acting as peacemakers. Well, guys, it's not your bloody job to act as peacemakers. We have the police force for that. The police should have come down on these two bozos like a ton of bricks, shouldn't they? Instead, all we've got is a copper looking slightly intimidated, as you do. That's the whole point of mounted coppers, isn't it? Looking up at them and saying, oh, you know, would you mind going away? The police have got to stop this sort of thing, and yet they don't.
Well, we see it all the time. We saw it in Birmingham, didn't we, where they were negotiating with people about where they could demonstrate, the Muslim demonstrators there. Then we had the situation in Staffordshire where they were saying, oh, put your weapons back in the mosque. And now we have this sort of thing. And what's really, I mean, as a wider issue, isn't it worrying that we have fans of an evil dictator who has caused terror all over the world, including Britain, and we've got people mourning his death? It's quite incredible. Imagine in 1940 people, or 1945, people mourning the death of Hitler in Britain. It's quite incredible. But the police, as I say, they need to be seen to be equal to all parties. That's how the police, without fear or favour, is the obligation you take as an oath that you take as a constable. And what this does is it tells people that different people are treated differently, and that's not the sort of British police we should have.
Exactly right. Well, on the same kind of tack, let's talk about what happened in at the weekend here. Yesterday, in fact, the Al-Quds pro-Iran demonstration. Static in the middle of London, but it still happened, and it was still pretty disconcerting, to say the least. As you say, it was like the equivalent of, people having a demonstration in the middle of World War II in favour of Adolf Hitler and the concentration camps or something. It was a bit strange, to say the least, not to mention pretty discomforting. It was quite a disturbing thing to watch, but in the middle of it, you got this. This is our friend Bob Villan, or Pascal Robinson Foster, as he's actually known in real life. Well, look, he's at it again, chanting death, death to the IDF. This is him yesterday.
Death to the IDF! Death! 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 Death to the IDF!
So, there you have it. Jew hatred, anti-Semitism in all its lack of glory. Yesterday, Bob Villan, Pascal Robinson Foster, yet again doing it. Now, when he did it in Glastonbury, was it June or whenever it was in the summer, the Avon and Somerset police absurdly, ludicrously, took 6 months to investigate whether or not this was anti-Semitism, whether or not this was a hate crime. And with 1 day to spare, literally at the end of the 6-month period, after which it would have been too late to charge him anyway, they announced that they had decided that shouting death, death to the IDF, in other words, kill Jews, at Glastonbury in front of hundreds of thousands of people, being watched by millions of people on television, did not reach the criminal threshold. Oh, really? I bet if he was chanting death, death to the Muslim faith, it would have reached the criminal threshold, but he got away with that. He's doing it again yesterday, and what are the Met Police saying? We are investigating. I just showed you and the audience all the evidence they need. Either it is a crime to shout kill Jews in this country, or it is not. What is it that the police find so difficult about this?
Well, there's two ironies here, isn't there? Firstly, that Bob Villan is named after, he takes his name from Bob Dylan, who was Jewish. That was the first ridiculous thing.
Bob Zimmerman, yeah.
The second thing as well, of course, is the Chief Constable of Avon and Somerset, who made this decision, also said that putting a Union Jack up was on lamppost was some kind of disturbing thing, which could be a hate crime. So it once again shows this two-tier policing. And as you've already said, Kevin, that video is sufficient evidence. My expertise is in prosecuting people with video evidence. You have it there. The video is easy to see. He's encouraged all those people to chance it. How much more evidence do they need? And this man needs bringing down. He's using this to prop up a failing music career, I suggest. But what he's doing is a public order offence, and he should be arrested and prosecuted for it.
And potentially, you know, I don't particularly like hate crimes, but they exist. And hate crimes exist to prevent people in public situations, at big gatherings, shouting anti-Semitic filth, which is what death to the IDF is. That is, let's kill some Jews. That's what he's shouting. What is it, as I say, that the police feel that they need to investigate this? This guy, if he was chanting, as I said, Mike, yesterday, death to the Muslim faith, he'd be doing life by now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd be scooped up straight away. I'm absolutely with you on this, Kevin. It sends this message out to the police, to the public, that the police are biased. And the trust and confidence in the police is at an all-time low. And these sort of incidents they tell the ordinary people, the ordinary taxpayer, you know, they'll be after you for saying something on Facebook, yet this man can shout this out in a big crowd and encourage thousands of people to say it. We saw the same with the character who shouting "punch a turf" in the face in a megaphone and not being prosecuted for, you know, inciting violence. And what you have, though, is a real bias. I've said this before. When I joined the police, about half of the senior officers were ex-military, and a lot of the police officers were ex-military. Now the whole group of them at the top are ex-students. They have left-leaning views, and they recruited officers who also have left-leaning views, who go to university rather than a military-style establishment like Hendon Police Training College that I went to, and their heads are filled with nonsense. And this is why you get this form of bias, and it isn't good.
It certainly isn't. And I think what we want, I mean, what will be interesting is, it seems to me, you know, the police have got to take a stand about this. What we, the British public, want to know, what I want to know as a British citizen, it was my understanding that if you stand up at a public event in front of thousands of people and call for the violent death of anyone, that is against the law. Particularly if the violent death you're talking about is based on some kind of racial prejudice, which frankly death to the IDF is. It's based on anti-Semitism. That seems to me to break the law on a number of levels. And once again, we have coppers effecting a kind of, this is legally difficult. This will take us some time to work out. In the case of Avon and Somerset, 6 bloody months. Do me a favour. Do me a favour. What are the Met Police going to do about this if they do decide, which they should, frankly, that Bob Villan, Pascal Robinson Foster, was breaking the law yesterday, and you know, they nick him for it? It sort of sets up a very difficult situation, if you ask me, for the Avon and Somerset police, who decided that he wasn't breaking the law when he shouted exactly the same at Glastonbury. We need some consistency, and frankly, Mike, we need some police forces who've got the guts to do the right thing, even if just maybe it might upset the hallowed Muslim community, right?
The police have got to be seen to be fair. They've got to see to act against people in a sane, balanced way. And also, one of the lowest trust and confidence I would suggest is with the Jewish community, who I always stand firm with them, because I've got Jewish friends who won't come to London, let's say, on a Saturday. Jewish friends who won't wear symbolism of their religion, of their faith. And this is just not good enough in Britain today. We see it all over. The police are treating certain communities, particularly the Muslim community, with kid gloves. And it shouldn't be like that. As I say, if he was shouting out death to anybody else, the police would move in. And the video evidence is there. An arrest could be made today. They're quick enough to arrest other people for the, you know, you saw the couple in Hertfordshire, for example, arrested for a WhatsApp row with a school, 6 officers turning up there. There's somebody on Facebook, a guy being arrested at Manchester Airport for something he put on Facebook. So the public, they can't help but notice that the police are swift to deal with these things. But when it comes to left-leaning causes, they are left to get on with it and to get away with it.
Exactly right. As I say, folks, let me know what you think. Is it illegal to chant publicly calling for the death of people for racial reasons, in other words, Jews, death to the IDF? Is that against the law, or is it not against the law? What the hell are the Met Police actually investigating? How long will this investigation have to go on? Because I just played you the damn evidence. You know, this is getting ridiculous. Mike Neville, glad you agree, and thank you very much for joining us. Mike Neville, making it plain. What I'm saying, come on. You know, I'm not one of these. I don't like going around and saying, lock him up, send him to jail. I don't like that sort of thing. I'm not like that. However, you know, we have laws. And you just know if old Bobby Villan was up there yesterday or at Glastonbury going, death, death to the Prophet Muhammad, death, death to the Muslim faith, they'd have him in the nick within seconds. But if it's death, death to the IDF, if it's just Jews that he wants to kill, well, don't worry about that. We don't want to make too much of a fuss of that because that might upset the Muslim community, mightn't it? The pro-Palestine police, folks, what do you think? 0344 499 1000. We're going to go to break now. We're going to take some calls when we come back. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breaking news. This is proper breaking news, as opposed to, like, saying breaking news just for the sake of it. This is actually breaking news. The US President Donald Trump has said he is not happy, quotes, with the UK and very surprised over its response to the Iran war. Trump indicated he believed the UK would be involved with helping in the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, adding they should be involved enthusiastically. But we're not, are we? There's the problem. We're not involved at all. And we have a Prime Minister who's pretending that he was invited, or Britain was invited to take part in the attack on Iran. It would have been America, Israel and Great Britain, except we weren't invited to. So he's just lying to us. I took the decision not to get Britain involved in this war. You didn't. You didn't, because you weren't invited. You were asked if America could borrow a couple of runways, and stupidly, damagingly, ludicrously, you said no. And then you changed your mind. But by then, the damage was done. How useless are you, Starmer? Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Laura in Wiltshire. Hello, Laura.
Oh, hi.
You want to talk about Bob Villan, do you?
Yes. So he's due to be headlining a festival in Wiltshire in the next couple of weeks, and Wiltshire Council have granted the licence.
Have they? Have they now? Interesting. Well, I mean, what did you... I mean, what's your view, Laura, as I've been labouringly saying? Well, look, we saw him at Glastonbury. It was broadcast to millions of people on the telly. He shouted it in front of hundreds of thousands of people at that festival. Death, death to the IDF. That is a call to kill Jewish people. That's anti-Semitic. That surely is against the law. For some reason, Somerset and Avon police took 6 months to say, no, it doesn't reach the crime threshold. Why not? But that's what they decided. Now he's done it again yesterday in central London at the Al-Quds demo. And we got the Met Police saying, we are investigating. What's to investigate? It's on film. Why don't they just pull him in?
Well, quite. And I think that this kind of anti-Semitic behaviour and the longer it goes unpunished, it's just emboldening people to think that it's okay to say those kind of things. We've got British Jews who are scared to go to school. They're worried about being out in their neighbourhoods. And all the while we've got celebrities making their performances based around what is just plain and simple anti-Semitism. I would like to see local authorities like Wiltshire Council taking a stand and saying, we're not going to grant the licence for this festival if this man is your headliner. He's got form in making his performances about anti-Semitic chants, and unless you remove him as your headliner, you won't be granted the licence.
Couldn't agree with you more. And here's the problem, Laura, as you indicate. So he gets away with it at Glastonbury because the Avon and Somerset police decide, this isn't against the law, even though it clearly is. So he's emboldened. So he goes down there yesterday to the Iran fan demo in central London and does it again because he's concluded, old Pascal Robinson Foster has concluded, I'm okay with this, I can get away with this. So the Avon and Somerset police have, by extension, kind of made it seem like it's okay to scream anti-Semitic death threats. And he's done it again, and the Met Police's response is, we are investigating. It's not good enough, and Wiltshire Council, Laura, thanks for bringing that to my attention. We'll have a look at that, but I hope at the very least they're making it clear to Bob Villan, Pascal Robinson Foster, one word of this death to the IDF crap, and you are out of here. But it is a tolerance. It's a tolerance of anti-Semitism. If he was going around screaming death, death to the Muslim faith, trust me, there would be no such tolerance. It's two-tier policing, Laura, and it's totally wrong. Really good call. Thank you. Please call me again. Laura in Wiltshire. We've got time for another call. Let's go to Anne-Marie in Lanarkshire up there in Scotland. Hello, Anne-Marie. What would you like to say?
Hello. I'd like to say that Ed Miliband can't go and drill and get their gas and oil out their sea because he has a budget. It's one budget. He would have to pull back on his wind farms.
Well, yeah, exactly. Stop wasting our time with useless wind farms and pointless solar panels and start drilling again in the North Sea. And for that matter, while you're at it, start fracking. It's about time that our energy prices weren't the highest costs in the world, wouldn't you think?
I agree, but I would also like to add now with this problem, we aren't going to have oil and gas, so our country is going to find that we don't have electricity, and that's his brief. So therefore, he has to solve that problem ahead of time. Personally,
but he's not going to, Anne-Marie. There's no solving of that problem. That's the problem.
So now he's got to do that. If we risk a war, he's now going to be left inept.
I'll tell you what. Did you watch him at all on the telly yesterday, Anne?
I did actually, and I don't think he looked like a con man to me.
I think it's worse than that. It's worse than that, in my view, Anne-Marie. I thought he looked like a deranged madman. You know, bog-eyed certitude, crazed ranting, shutting everyone down as soon as they dared to question his ideological zealotry. It was really bizarre and really frightening. This guy is just a mad zealot, an ideologue on a dangerous level.
That's Labour. That's how Labour's trained.
Yeah.
You watch every one of them. They lie. They don't accept things. Oh, I don't accept that. They keep doing
yes,
it.
That's
They've
right.
been well trained in the art of deception.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I don't accept that. And did you notice, as we played that clip a little earlier, but any time, Laura Kuenssberg, Trevor Phillips, any of the interviewers who tried to say, well, surely, you know, if you did open up the North Sea gas and oil fields, that would bring our energy. No, let me explain. He wouldn't let anyone ask him a logical question. We are in the hands. I'm not kidding. I don't say this lightly. I don't say this about any other cabinet ministers, secretaries. I don't like any of them, but I don't say they're mad or insane. I really do think Ed Miliband has a sanity problem, and his sanity problem is Britain's catastrophe. It really is. Good call, Anne-Marie. Really good. Thank you. Call me again, Anne-Marie in Lanarkshire, seeing the problem with our friend. Well, let's do another call. We're on a roll. Let's do a third, a hat trick of calls. This is Steve in Cambridgeshire. Steve, what would you like to say?
Hello, Kevin. I was listening to what you were saying, and Miliband and like Starmer all saying, you know, our oil and gas has to be sold on the international market and all this, that and the other. But what they fail to mention is when our oil and gas is sold on the international market, the people selling it generate tax. So why isn't that tax set aside to reduce British fuel bills?
Yeah, but also Steve, our oil and gas, what we're talking about is, okay, there's so much oil and gas in the North Sea that, yes, we can profit from it, we can sell it, but also we can use it ourselves. Only Ed Miliband has banned us from that because for ecological reasons, you know, that's bad for the environment. So what we do, Britain, we don't drill North Sea oil and gas anymore for virtue signalling reasons, but we buy North Sea oil and gas from the Norwegians who are still drilling it. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's total lunacy, mate. I appreciate what you're saying, but just to sink their argument, they're saying that it's not profitable. I mean, going on a point that you were making
That's a lie.
earlier,
That's a lie.
Yeah, a point that you were making with the previous caller, Miliband is a lunatic.
Yeah.
And I was watching, it's probably heresy, but I was watching GB News earlier, and they had Donald McCarthy on there.
Yeah.
And
him. Donald, you mean that guy from The Independent, yeah.
He was doing exactly the same to the other panellist. The guy was making complete sense about net zero. Donna McCarthy was shouting over him every minute that he was
talking
speaking.
about saving children and all that kind of stuff. You know, just emotive claptrap that doesn't bear any relation to scientific reality. This country cannot be powered purely by windmills and solar panels. It's as simple as that. It just can't be. And yet we have a nut zero madman secretary going around telling us it can. He's just preaching total fantastical lies to us that suit his halo polishing virtue signalling agenda. It's absolutely crazy, Steve, and terrifyingly so. But thank you for an excellent call. Thank you very much, Steve in Cambridgeshire there. Let me know what you think about this guy Miliband. If you saw him on the telly yesterday, I was just sitting there going, oh my God, is it this bad? It really is. As I say, shutting down any slight questioning of his bizarre derangement that this country is on its way to being powered by windmills. We're never going to be powered by windmills. Can't happen. We have the highest energy costs bills, the highest energy bills on the face of the planet. The world's highest energy bills due to Ed Miliband. If we drilled in the North Sea and if we fracked, we have plenty of shale gas here in this country, massive shale gas field in Lincolnshire, for example. Our energy prices, your energy prices, would be a fraction of what they are now, maybe a fifth of what they are now, like they are in America. America pays a fifth of what we pay. How do you feel about the fact that we are polishing our own halos by continuing not to drill in the North Sea and continuing not to frack. 03444 991,000. When we come back, we're going to talk to Ace Talk reporter Samara Gill, who was at the demonstration yesterday, the pro-Iran fan demo. And it got quite hairy for her. We'll talk to her about all of that and come back to Bob Villan. Why is they don't need to investigate, coppers, you know. You don't need a Sherlock Holmes on this one. Get your magnifying. Did Pascal Robinson Foster, did he say this? Yeah, it's on telly. Jesus, I mean, come on. Get your act together. We'll talk to Samara next. Stay tuned. 0344 499 1000. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to our ace reporter, Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be on the show, finally.
Good to, yeah, thanks for turning up at last. No, seriously, good to have you on the show. And you braved the horror that was that Iran fan demo yesterday. It wasn't as heavily attended as people expected, but I've seen your footage, I've heard the chanting, and despite the fact that maybe 100,000 didn't turn up, enough turned up to make that an extremely disturbing spectacle, and one that was quite harrowing for you, right?
Yeah, I completely disagree with some other people that are saying that not many people were there. There was a shocking amount of people there, but it was actually about the quality of who was there that should be considered more, because it was absolutely more the extremist element of what these marches are about. You know, I've covered many protests at this point, and every time, you know, you do get the middle class hand wringers that show up to the pro-Palestine protest because they've seen a TikTok and they felt emboldened to go on one of these marches that they know nothing about. What happened on Sunday was far more dark and insidious, actually, Kev. It was extremism, and it was on the streets, and it was rampant, and every single person there was aggressive. I was getting mobbed. People were asking staff on my team if they were Jewish. Asking,
really?
Yes. Are you a Jew was the phrase that was used in a very attacking type of way. I was mobbed by over 20 people. We were basically driven out of the protest at one point. It was, you know, Britain, it felt like Britain was sort of on a knife's edge that day. Yeah. This is the rough and ready side of what that sort of pro-Iran, pro-Palestine protests, kind of what they try to achieve.
Indeed. Well, listen, do you want to introduce the film that you made?
Yeah, so we've been talking about Bob Villan today. I just want to show you that what Bob Villan said was small fry compared to what those in the crowd were saying. Let's have a listen to the rampant anti-Semitism on display.
are the Epstein class. You are the murderers of children.
Supporting 5 countries that are striked by people who are ruled by pedophilics.
Benjamin Netanyahu, thoughts?
He's dead. He's out the window. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine from everything. Inshallah, yallah, inshallah.
I don't care who you are, as long as you are not on the side of the Zionist oppressors. They are the most evil people in the world.
What about the Ayatollah's death? What did you think of that?
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's like killing the Pope.
Benjamin Netanyahu is still alive. Think about Benjamin Netanyahu.
What do you think?
I want to know what you think. You're the Zion media.
What do you think? Why are you here today?
Tell us what you think.
What's your views on 180 kids dying?
What do you think about Jeffrey?
It's just question after question. There's so many questions.
Answer me. Leave all of them. Come look at me. What's your name? What's your name?
Over there.
What do you think?
We're here to show our Jewish position. We are against this war, against the aggression, against the massacres, against the genocide committed by Zionism.
Behind me, we're having death chants to the IDF.
She is making up. I can't hear anyone say that. She's just making up.
The police are seemingly not getting involved, which is quite mad.
You're making up. I agree. Israel. They're clipping. Well, I've got to take it. Free Palestine. I've got to take it. You've got to post on twice. That's the point.
That looks very hairy indeed, and you're right. I bet you both, most of those people that were harassing you there couldn't point to Iran on the map. I'll guarantee you. But also,
great point.
Samara, as you alluded to, we heard this. Let's remind ourselves of our friend Bob Villan, or Pascal Robinson Foster, as he's also known. Check it out.
Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF.
So that, in my view, should be against the law. That is calling for the death of Jews. That is a hate chant. You know, if you call for someone's death on the basis of, or on any basis, it's illegal. But if you call for someone's death on the basis of their religion or their race, then that is very much against the law. And all we're hearing from the Met Police is they are investigating this. What are they investigating? We just saw the evidence. Avon and Somerset Police already let him off for doing it at Glastonbury. How many more times is this guy going to be allowed to attend public meetings in front of thousands of people and call for the death of Jews? What's going on?
This wasn't a peaceful protest. This was imported sectarian hatred playing out in the Capitol. And it's crazy because all those clips are now intersecting. When I said, oh, they're shouting death to the IDF, that is Bob Villan on that stage there. And they, you know, some of the smarter ones go, no, he's not saying that. You're lying to me.
Yeah, I heard that. He's behind you. No, she's lying. She's lying. She's lying. Well, we just saw the evidence that you weren't lying. He was, at that point, Bob Villan, chanting yet again, death, death to the IDF, and yet again getting a bloody great crowd to join in with him. If the Met Police need time to investigate this, then they should get new careers. It doesn't need a Sherlock Holmes operation, this. Why haven't they pulled him in already?
It's a great question. I was there, as we know, but I genuinely did not have any help from the police. I felt safe because I've had the appropriate training, but we got into some much hairier situations that were caught on camera, and I am on camera screaming out to the police, can you please help us, you know, before one of our other journalists gets assaulted, and they were nowhere to be found. They did not want to get involved yesterday. They arrested one person who had the Boom Boom Israel sign on.
Boom Boom Tel Aviv, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Boom Boom Tel Aviv sign. They arrested him in front of my eyes, but let's just say he wasn't, he didn't fit the typical description of who was there that day, so they probably felt comfortable putting him in handcuffs. And I'm not saying, you know, that they were doing a terrible job, because there was a load of them there, but you know, surrounding Bob Dylan was thousands of police. One of them could have stepped in, but none of them did.
So they were protecting him. They were protecting him while he broke the law. So this is my objection. I keep making this point. I abhor, I completely condemn that demonstration yesterday. It strikes me as virtually treacherous, but there's something deep within me, my libertarian instincts, that I don't want to ban people from protesting, even in these circumstances. But what I do want to do is to see the police policing them properly. If people break the law, e.g., calling for the death of Jews, they should be arrested. I don't want the police standing by and just letting people break the law like this. So they've done it again. Let's watch the second piece of footage that you filmed yesterday, Samara.
No, I'm talking to her. I'm not talking to you. No. The police is the statement. If you want, if you don't mind, can you can stop taking the entry right now? You can do it from the inside, please, if you don't mind. We're just doing that to make sure. We're from the organizers. That's up to her.
What? Anyway, this is the day we opposing the continuous genocide of Israel, Britain, and USA in Palestine. The defenseless people, babies, genocide, being killed in hospital, and these people, they flag bearers of democracy, look what they do. And Iran, 20,000 people being killed by America and British bombing. All of them.
Excuse me, we're the press, so we're going to get the police involved if you think...
I think is a good statement. Anyway.
That's the Islamic Human Rights Commission. Where are the police? We need to get the police. Get the police quickly, because he's going to...
I'm gonna report as an evidence. Okay. They are with talkTV and this.
So, Samara, who are those guys saying we're the organisers? They're the Islamic, what do they call themselves, committee or something? Who the hell are they?
They are a pseudo organization, the Islamic Human Rights Commission, which is basically an anomaly in itself. I mean, sorry, the Iranian Human Rights Commission. It's ridiculous. They were completely blocking us. Other right-leaning outlets were also getting blocked by them. Any interviews we tried to do, they swiftly tried to interject and silence whoever wanted to speak up. Let me just tell you that this Iranian Human Rights Commission has actually taken £450,000 worth of taxpayer money since 2020. So you can see just what they're doing for the free press right now and just how they're respecting the laws of this country. And I think this is what underpins actually a lot of the work that Talk's been doing at the moment kind of on the ground. The non-halal meat story, this story, you know, other instances that I've covered in Whitechapel. It's a lack of respect for British law. We are in the United Kingdom. We're meant to have free speech and democracy. And yet here we have certain groups trying to oppose their own rules and regulations on us. And it's unacceptable. And it's a completely slippery slope. And I think we're almost at the end of it, to be honest. I think that in a very bad way. We are in a dire situation here. It cannot get worse. The police were right there and they were freely allowing the Iranian Human Rights Commission to silence us. That's exactly what was going on.
The Iranian Human Rights Commission. And what are they all about? If they're about human rights in Iran, perhaps we should let them know it's not a big thing with the Ayatollah or the mad mullahs. They killed 50,000 of their own citizens early last month when they had the temerity to protest against their tyrannical, violent, torturous, murderous regime. Human rights in Iran, do me a favour. Who are these people and who the hell do they think they are telling you and other members of the media, indeed members of the public, that they can or cannot come into that area where the demonstration was coming on?
And swearing at us.
The police should have been arresting them, shouldn't they, in their high-vis jackets?
Completely, and the police just stood by and let it happen. I mean, you can hear in the last bit of that clip where I'm literally calling out for the police to help, and they just don't want to get involved. These high-vis jackets seem to have granted some sort of ridiculous pass to these Human Rights Commission people, and they were basically acting as if they owned the place. They were acting as if they had full authority over the protest. They had no right. They were asking for our accreditation. What accreditation? This is a public protest where people were standing by. By the way, it wasn't very static or whatever you want to call it. People were freely moving around. Again, total mismanagement of this thing. I agree with you. I think these people should have the right to protest, but for a different reason, Kev, because I think every single one of those people at that march should be put on some sort of MI5 or MI6 watch list, because there wasn't anyone who wasn't an extremist in that protest.
Yeah, and I'm just watching this bit of film where you got that guy on the stage shouting about kid killers, children killers, which is an old anti-Semitic trope. So this looks to me to be a festival of anti-Semitism and a festival of anti-Britishness. Not so much, I would suggest, a demonstration in support of Iran and the Ayatollah, more a demonstration against this country.
Totally against this country and against the Jewish people. I think whether or not there was a bombing in Iran by Israel and the US, there still would have been this rancid Jew hatred within the Al-Quds Day celebration. I don't actually think it had much to do with the geopolitical conflict, and it just shows you how out of control this situation has become. And you know, you're right, on the other side of the river there was an Iranian protest that was a counter protest, and what the most absolutely maddening thing is that there weren't many Iranians or any Iranians in that crowd. It's mostly second generation people who get very wistful about a homeland that they've absolutely never been to, and wistful about a leader that they've never lived under. And most of them are telling me that they don't live in a free country because Keir Starmer's such a fascist. Well, go live under the Ayatollah and let me know how you feel. I mean, the hypocrisy during that protest was frightening. And I just don't think, you know, there'll be more and more like this, and I just don't know where the country's going to go from here.
And all these guys pushing you around. As I say, I guarantee you 80% of them, 90% of them, probably all of them could not point to Iran on a map. But frightening times, very disturbing, but great report, Samara, and really good to talk to you. Glad you survived. Thank you very much. Samara Gill talks Ace Reporter there. Let me know what you think about some of those extraordinary scenes. 03444 99 1000. Should we have allowed that to happen? I mean, you might not agree with me. I mean, I think we should allow it to happen, but that's just me. Oh, look, there's my phone. Thank you very much. Why didn't I turn that off? Right, but anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think. 03444 99 1000. Next up, very big change of pace. We're going to talk about sport in the excellent company of Head of Sport at The Sun, Sean Custis. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Time for the sport in the excellent company of Head of Sport at The Sun, Sean Costis. Find out what's going to be in the sports pages of Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow. Welcome, Sean. Chelsea have been fined £10 million and handed a suspended transfer ban after admitting making £47 million in secret payments.
They have. And to be fair, the current Chelsea regime, it's not them that did this. Right. It's all part of the Abramovich regime, in which they made secret payments to unlicensed agents associated with certain players, so the likes of Hazard, David Luiz, Nemanja Matic. But they wouldn't necessarily have had any knowledge of this. This was payments. But part of the reason you make secret payments is to keep it out of PSR. So that it doesn't go officially in the books, and you're not hammered for spending too much money in a season. So they thought, we'll keep those ones off the books, then we won't be getting into trouble for spending too much. The irony is they still wouldn't have bust PSR regulations, so they didn't actually need to hide it. But this current regime, the Todd Bowley regime, reported themselves, themselves. So they're fined £10 million. They get a suspended transfer ban, but the point has been made that it could have been a £20 million fine if they hadn't self-reported it. They are under an academy transfer ban, though, because of basically tapping up players, again under the Abramovich era, not under the Bowley era, and a £750,000 fine for that too. So not great, but well done for reporting themselves. But also, in more bad news, Reece James has got a hamstring injury, and he's been playing very, very well for Chelsea, and they really could do with him, especially as they're 5-2 down to PSG and play tomorrow night and try to overturn that. Quite a lot going on at Chelsea, especially as well as they lost to Newcastle.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to remind us what happened to Chelsea on Saturday?
That was pretty good. Newcastle did well there, because I didn't think they'd put... that would be seen as much of a priority for us with playing Barcelona this week, but really good performance. Chelsea beaten. It was only 1-0, but it could have been more, I felt. But anyway, we did well. So there are a number of Champions League games going on tomorrow night, and the managers have been talking today. So Pep Guardiola, he gave his players all the day off today. They needed recovery time because they could only draw against West Ham, as we saw at the weekend, which wasn't very clever in their pursuit of Arsenal. Need a bit of a rest. Pep says they need to produce the perfect game, and Real Madrid have arrived with Jude Bellingham and Kylian Mbappe, who didn't play in the first leg when Real Madrid won 3-0.
Yeah, I think the perfect game to overturn a 3-0 deficit against Real Madrid is a bit of a stretch.
Very, very difficult. If you remember, though, once Barcelona once 3-0 up against Liverpool and lost 4-3. That was
true.
But this doesn't happen too often. Pep is talking about the fact that in 2022 they were 2-0 down to Aston Villa with not very long to go, and they won the league, winning 3-2. So he's looking for that inspiration. And talking of inspiration, Arsenal are getting inspiration from a 16-year-old Max Dowman, who is now superstar already, because the way he came off the bench the other day, scored the second goal. Yes, the goalkeeper was out of his goal, but he beat one man, beat another man, ran the length of the pitch.
These kids.
But he is an Arsenal hero, and Arteta's not really playing it down about him. He's happy for everybody to praise him. He's already likened him to Messi himself. So
he does look good, doesn't he? He does look good.
He does look
16 years old.
We're even questioning. There's even questions like, well, Thomas Tuchel names his squad for the upcoming friendlies on Friday. Would Dowman get in? I know it's early, but 16-year-olds with this sort of talent, it's happened before. We saw it with Theo Walcott in 2006. It didn't work out. But Rooney was put into the England squad very young. And Michael Owen was put in the England squad very young. Those worked out. If he's good enough, old enough, might be just a little bit early, but you can't bet against it totally.
And that goal that he scored to consolidate Arsenal's victory with Man City only managing to draw against West Ham, that could be the goal. This could well be the match that wins Arsenal the championship.
Indeed, and he made the first goal as well, which Gyökeres scored. It was his cross. They're fighting for trophies on four fronts. They've got Carabao Cup final coming up at the weekend against Man City. he's going to play an important part in the running while still trying to do his GCSEs. Which he's got to try to fit in.
Right? I don't suppose he'll worry too much about whether or not he passes.
Well, if he went to the World Cup, he'd actually have to do them at the World Cup.
That's hysterical.
It had look.
I don't know how smart he is, but
no, he seems a pretty smart lad.
Okay.
It's all going very well for Max Gammon, and Arteta's embracing it and using that as a feel-good factor for Arsenal. You know, we're not that boring, actually. We've got a young kid like this who's really skillful.
Absolutely, it was thrilling to see, and I think Arsenal are probably marching on now. I'm trying to think of a reason to mention Notts Forest against Fulham, but I can't really.
Well, we can't think one. But you did race back to see it, which I found quite staggering.
I was away for the weekend, folks. I raced all the way back to get back for 2 p.m. My wife, who doesn't even really know the shape of the football, did say to me after 20 minutes, "Why did we rush back to watch this crap?" And I had to agree with her. I said, I really don't know. But I suppose there is some significance. It's a significant point for Notts Forest. West Ham got one as well.
You can't say Notts Forest. Anybody who lives
Nottingham
in Nottingham will tell you
Nottingham
can't
Forest.
do that.
Who's going down, quickly? Who's going down?
I still think Forest might.
Forest might. Well, there you go.
Wolves play tonight, by the way, at Brentford.
Yeah, I'm sure that's on TalkSport. I'll get you the details. Thank you much, Sean Custis. Next up, more of the big story, so stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Get your calls in. We're going to have another calls section later in this hour, the final hour of today's drive time. So 0344 499 1000. Why do the police need to investigate Pascal Robinson Foster of Bob Villan? Why do they need to investigate him? It's on film. He shouted death, death to the IDF. Is that legal or illegal? Is it okay or is it against the law? What is the problem that the police have with this? You know, they're calling for the death of Jews. That's anti-Semitic. They're calling for the death of people on the basis of their religion and race. That's a hate crime, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Should we send ships, as Donald Trump demands or requests, to the Strait of Hormuz to help clear, to unblock that crucial 25-mile stretch of sea, that's narrow channel through which 20% of all the world's oil used to be shipped until Iran closed it down. Should we get out there and unblock that channel before the world is plunged into economic catastrophe? 0344 499 1000. I guess what I'm asking is, so far, Keir Starmer has sent 8 sailors to the war zone. Is that enough? 0344 499 1000. And do we need to do something about our deranged net zero secretary, crazy Ed Miliband? It's terrifying in these circumstances, isn't it, that he wants to double down on his green claptrap when we should be opening up our North Sea oil and gas fields and maybe fracking as well, because we're about to potentially plunge into an energy crisis caused by the Strait of Hormuz. We cannot have a bog-eyed ideologue screaming his zealotry, you know, when pragmatic moves are necessary, don't you think? 0344 499 1000. Let's go over now to former government special advisor James Price. Welcome, James.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good to see you. Always a pleasure. Now, first of all, let me play you this. This was at the Al-Quds Iran fan demo yesterday, where a bunch of enemies of this country, if you ask me, gathered to scream their hatred of Britain and, more pertinently in this instance, their hatred of Jews, anti-Semitism in all its lack of glory. Watch this. This is Bob Villan, alias Pascal Robinson Foster, at the Al-Quds rally yesterday in central London.
Death to the IDF! Death! 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 Death to the IDF!
Now, James, he did exactly the same at Glastonbury back in the summer, in June or July, whenever it was. The Avon and Somerset police took 6 months to decide whether or not chanting in front of hundreds of thousands of pop festival goers and indeed millions of TV viewers, chanting for the death of a group of people on the basis of their race and religion. It took the Avon and Somerset police 6 months to decide whether or not that was against the law, whether or not a crime had been committed. With 1 day to go, they announced that they felt that the criminal threshold had not been reached. Well, I don't know where the criminal threshold is, for God's sake. Now, he's doing it again yesterday in central London, and the Met Police have announced they are investigating. What are they investigating? We just showed you the evidence. Is that against the law, or is it not against the law? Are you allowed in this country to stand in front of thousands of people and call for the death of a section of people on the basis of their race and religion, or is that illegal? What is the problem that the police have with that?
Well, it's one of these stories that I just wish we didn't have to talk about. There are so many exciting things that we could be talking about in the world, and yet Britain is being held back by this bunch of, I guess we'll call them numpties because we're a happy family program, to put it mildly. You know, it just this we should be exploring the stars at this point. We should be getting back to the moon and Mars, and beating cancer and all these wonderful things that the potential for humanity is out there to do. And instead, we've got to discuss morons like this guy, who, if you've ever listened to him try and perform music, you can see why he's desperately trying to turn into a political activist instead, because he's about as good at singing as he is about understanding geopolitics of the Middle East. I think what he'll try and use, as he did before, I suspect, as a get-out clause, is that despite his caricature of Israel as this evil state, actually there are lots of Arabs and others who work inside the IDF. So he's just saying death to all sorts of people. It's not aimed specifically at any one group, and therefore it's a political statement. I suspect that's the kind of get-out clause he's going to try and use. But most people, when they scream about the IDF, when they scream about Zionists, when they talk about Israel more broadly, we know what they're dog whistling about. We know exactly what it is they're doing. And unfortunately, although it may always start with the Jews, seemingly, as anti-Semitism seems to be one of the oldest and most twisted of mental perversions that has existed through history, never stops with the Jews. So even if you think, oh, Israel's bad, or I've not met any Jews or anything silly like that, even if you're in your own self-interest, look at that mob out there. If they successfully bullied every Jew in Britain to leaving Britain and moving to Israel or somewhere else, they're not going to stop there. They're going to start going for everybody else because these people are enemies of civilization, as you say.
Well, Samara Gill, our reporter, was down there yesterday at great peril to herself. It got quite violent and hairy. They didn't like the media. There were these people going around with high-vis jackets on, representing some kind of organisation called the Iranian Human Rights Committee, whoever the hell they are. And they were sort of saying, you can't come in, you've got to go out, you can't do this. Who the hell were these people? We find out that their organisation has indeed received £450,000 worth of taxpayers' money as some kind of official charity. So the insanity goes on and on and on. But Samara said that the prevailing feeling, the prevailing aura of that meeting, that gathering yesterday, was an explosion of Jew hatred, of anti-Semitism. And if our police forces, in this instance the Met Police, need time to investigate that, that's why we get it keep happening. Bob Villan, Pascal Robinson Foster, he's got the message from the Avon and Somerset police that he's allowed to do this. I would contend he is not allowed to do this. And if we must have these demonstrations, as we had yesterday, anti-British, anti-Jew demonstrations, then the police must police them properly. But they did it again yesterday. They just stood there watching the law clearly being broken and doing nothing about it. And if Bob Villan or anyone was up on that stage shouting death, death to the Muslim faith, let me tell you, they'd be locked up by now.
You're dead right. And by the way, massive props to Samara for her bravery in that. I was listening to her talking to you just beforehand. I thought very interesting that although this was supposed to be a static protest to get around some stupid loophole in the law, the people were moving around perfectly freely. So exactly as you say, this protest has not been properly policed. And this, Kev, is something you and I have spoken about quite a few times. My frustration with the way that these events since the 7th of October have been policed in general. I think the police have got some memo from on high. And let's remember that in London, the Police and Crime Commissioner is one Sadiq Khan, if you're looking for where the lack of leadership comes from. I think the police have been told that they are not to go in heavy-handed at these sorts of events because they might not have the numbers, things might get really very violent indeed, as we've seen with these people before, and they're told to get the photographs of them, lift them afterwards and charge them and all the rest of it so as not to cause a scene. And the problem with that, of course, is that it makes them every bit as much as emboldened to continue pushing on as the fact, again, as you say, that Bob Villan, this idiot, was able to get away with this chant last year. So what I would like to see is enough kind of approach from the police, and just to go into this lot and say, right, you've broken the law here, I'm going to arrest you, and if your mates try and stop me, I'm going to arrest all of them as well, and we're going to set an example for once. This is what Mrs. Thatcher knew how to do when there was a civil breakdown in law and order, and I think this is what's required now. And why doesn't it happen very often? Because there aren't enough police numbers, and they know that in certain communities you could lead to enormous widespread violence, as we heard, by the way, in the West Midlands. So this is a problem that's only going to keep getting worse for Britain as our demographics keep getting worse, and as we don't tackle the increasing levels, as you say, of Jew hate and whatever comes after that as well.
Absolutely. Let's move on and talk about Ed Miliband. I'm sure that, like me...
From the ridiculous to the even more ridiculous.
Yes. Not from the sublime, from the ridiculous to the more ridiculous. Ed Miliband, I don't know if you watched him touring the TV studios yesterday, preaching his net zero zealotry. It was frightening. It was frightening. Any time, Laura Kuenssberg, Trevor Phillips, or any of the other interviewers tried to sort of say, well, given the circumstances with the Strait of Hormuz and the impending oil catastrophe, shortage catastrophe, surely it's time to open up our North Sea oil and gas reserves to keep energy prices low. And this is the sort of thing that happened. I think in this instance, this was Trevor Phillips getting the full brunt of Ed Miliband's virtue signalling zealotry. Watch this.
New drilling in the North Sea will not take a penny off people's bills. It's not just me. Just a second. It's not just me. It's not just.
Oil and
it's just.
gas,
It's not. No, but it's
which you're doing.
No. But no. Hang on a minute. It's no. Hang on a minute. It's really important that we have this discussion because some people want to go around and pretend that if we drilled more, prices would go down. That is totally false.
It isn't totally false, it's totally true. But did you notice, I thought the most interesting thing there, apart from the absolute unscientific claptrap he was characteristically spewing, is he just wouldn't... No, it's very important we get this. It's very important, as I said earlier. What we're watching there is the bog-eyed certitude of a deranged lunatic, an ideologue on a ludicrous level, at a time when national pragmatism is essential. You know, if we don't do something now about energy prices with the Strait of Hormuz, we are going to be in big trouble. And yet this idiot is going round the TV studios yesterday saying, now is not the time to buckle on our net zero ambitions. We must double down on our sunlit future, you know, where we'll all be powered by renewables, by windmills and solar panels. What is it that he doesn't understand about the fact that is not ever going to be possible? We are in the hands of a lunatic, James, and it is worrying.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about anybody who's watching or listening to this programme. He doesn't care about the old lady living on her own who's going to freeze to death at the moment or might have frozen to death over the winter. He doesn't care that Britain's businesses are going bust because of high energy costs, or that we're going to miss out on all the exciting new technological advancements that will require abundant energy, as it always has done. That's why we got going with the Industrial Revolution first and so on. He doesn't care about these things. As you say, this man is mad. He is a mad ideologue, I'm afraid to say, who has got a kind of messianic vision that he will be the person to decarbonise, and he doesn't mind how many people, how many businesses, how many livelihoods are sacrificed on the way. And he thinks that this will lead the world into some golden future because Britain will set the example. And in a way, Britain is setting an example because every other country is looking at our energy policy saying, right, that's what we're going to do the opposite of. We are going to totally do this differently. If drilling, as you say, lots of North Sea oil and gas more, or fracking, or getting nuclear power plants up and going one day, or any of the rest of it, doesn't bother changing, wouldn't reduce costs ever, why does anybody ever do it? Why is it that American costs are half what they are here for domestic energy supplies? Because they've got greater supply. Why is it the same for France? Because they've got loads of nuclear power. Britain, of course, had more nuclear power plants than all the rest of the world put together in the 60s, and we let that go. And people like Nick Clegg, remember him, said, oh, there's no point in building them because they won't be ready until 2021. It feels a long time ago now, doesn't it? But these are people, both Ed Miliband and Rachel Reeves, who's gone awfully quiet recently, and Starmer. These people do not understand the fundamentals of something like, oh, I don't know, supply and demand. And therefore, the fact that they feel confident enough to go around talking about price gouging and talking about the economy as if they've got any idea what they're saying, either they're lying or they're mad or they're just stupid, or perhaps it's all three. Does it look like that in that clip to me?
I think all three is probably the case. Now, I also think it was very significant that Ed Miliband was doing the media rounds, touring the TV studios. Yeah. A cabinet secretary gets that gig every Sunday. Usually they don't want to do it. My bet is that Ed Miliband, with all his power, because he is very powerful in the cabinet, because he is the most popular cabinet secretary by a mile amongst Labour members, my bet is he would have demanded to have done that yesterday in order to ram home his message. Now is not the time to buckle, to lose our resolution when it comes to our net zero project. Now is the time to double down. No, Ed, now is the time to abandon it because something has happened. A full-scale war in the Middle East might be worth thinking about. Talking about that, Keir Starmer this morning, Downing Street, while promising to help families who are struggling because the cost of heating oil has spiraled. Double down on all this nonsense about, I took the statesmanlike decision not to go to war. You weren't asked to go to war. Stop lying to us on that respect. But he said, no, I am not going to get involved. I'm not going to get involved. This is, we've only got it on audio, but this is Donald Trump's response to Keir Starmer once again saying that this is not our war, Britain is not involved. Here's Donald Trump.
I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom, 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally, and they don't want to do it. I think it's terrible.
Strong words from the president. I mean, I'm not thrilled with the idea that America and Israel launched this attack on Iran. And what is it now, 3 weeks later? It seems that their plan for the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes, 200 million barrels a day in its heyday. Right now it's just a trickle, if anything at all. I don't think it's great planning on the part of America to say, well, what we're going to do is in 3 weeks' time we'll turn around and ask all those woke EU nations if they wouldn't mind sending their navies down there to reopen that strait, because that's just ridiculous. That notwithstanding, I think we should be offering him a lot more help. And once again, as the president is making clear there, Keir Starmer's feeble response, born of a kind of moral cowardice, a kind of fear of the Muslim community here, has destroyed the special relationship, hasn't it?
The tragedy, in a broadest possible sense, is that Donald Trump is the most pro-British president I think maybe there's ever been. And yet we've got probably the most anti-American prime minister we've ever seen in number 10. It's a real tragedy, because imagine what might have been done. It was someone who would really embrace that American relationship, the way that their economy is so much bigger and stronger than ours now and continuing to accelerate, the way their military power is obviously so massive, as we've seen them be so successful, the way that we could have so many more intelligence negotiations, all the rest of this stuff that we could have with one another, and it looks like it's being damaged. So I hope that we don't come needing America's help anytime soon, because it looks like it may be much less forthcoming in this world that gets increasingly transactional. But again, it shows why we're so weakened militarily that we can't do anything about this, even if we really wanted to. And so why is Ed Miliband therefore not going and diversifying away from our reliance on any of this stuff? The United States, of course, is able to do this sort of thing because after the Iraq war got going, and that was, of course, a very difficult war, precipitated largely by the fact that Iran was supporting all of the militias inside Iraq. But the Americans are able to do this because they got fracking, because of the shale gas revolution in the United States. They are energy independent. They are an energy exporter now, and we are not. And yet we've been doing the complete opposite. The idea that we've got anything to teach the Americans on this, I think, is slightly for the birds. And the last thing I would just say is that on the military side of this, if you look at the Institute for the Study of War, which I take to be the Bible when it comes to this, of open source intelligence as to what's going on, this is still a phenomenally successful operation that is going on, and we shouldn't see this as either going to this conflict that we see now versus not, and everything apparently staying tickety-boo and lovely and nice. The counterfactual should be with what would happen if Iran were to gain even more power, if Iran were able to gain, God forbid, nuclear weapons, if China were to go into Taiwan and plunge the world economy into total crisis at the same time that Iran was able to unleash those sorts of weapons. That's the real counterfactual. I think we've got to weigh all of this up. Imagine what that oil price would be if we end up in the Third World War with the Chinese Communist Party versus the United States and all of the fallout of that. And to put it in that kind of context, yes, it's very bad that there's more expensive energy, but I think that is something we need to keep an eye on a broader picture of all of this. And I hope that there is still that master plan that's going on inside the Pentagon and elsewhere.
Maybe there's a master plan going on inside of the Pentagon and the White House, but there's no master plan in Downing Street. And you talk about America's decision to frack, thereby almost on a mass scale, thereby almost at a stroke, absolutely plummeting energy prices, energy bills for Americans. You know, at a stroke. Who took that decision? Was it some old right-wing drill baby drill Republican? No. It was that left-wing Democrat Barack Obama, the spiritual twin of the Labour Party. So if only we had a Barack Obama, I don't, only in this instant, but you know what I mean. James, it's fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you so much. Former government special advisor James Price there. Let me know what you think. What you think of what he was saying. I mean, again, you know. We've got to do something about this. We've got to do something about Ed Miliband. We've got to do something about our military. We have no strategy, nothing. We just got some old rusty tug going around circles in the English Channel. HMS Dragon. What's going on? Apparently we've sent 8 sailors so far. So there you are. Let's, well, competition time, shall we? Do a bit of competition. We're giving you the chance to win 2 hospitality tickets to the British Grand Prix on Sunday, the 5th of July, with full racing green trackside experience. This is the ultimate setup for race day. You'll get exclusive grandstand seats at the Loop and Village corners, plus inner track access to watch the drivers arriving at the paddock, and access to the hospitality shuttle bus for easy on-site transport, racing simulators and live music between sessions, all-day street food and an open bar. Listen up to find out how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
It's the perfect Silverstone race day experience for any F1 fan, so don't miss out. Coming up after the break, the latest on the Royals with Charlie Ray. Stick around, this is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk Royals. Let's talk about Harry, Meghan, the Queen, you name it, Sarah Ferguson. We'll talk about them all with my old friend, former Royal editor at The Sun, Charlie Way. Welcome, Charlie.
Hello there, Kevin. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, mate. Well, look, Tom Bauer has got another one of his bombshell books out. This one is called Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, to be released. I think it's now on release. It's certainly been serialised in the Times, in which contains some very interesting information, including the fact that in conversations behind closed palace doors, the Queen Camilla said that Harry had been brainwashed by Meghan, and that in fact members of the royal family felt that Meghan kind of changed Harry's personality, and he went from a fun-loving guy that we all loved, that we all liked, to this rather furrow-browed guy who seemed to hate everybody and everything, and that, as Camilla said, that he had been brainwashed by Meghan. The royals, the Sussexes, Harry and Meghan, have immediately hit back, calling Tom Bauer's book, or his claims about Harry and Meghan, a deranged conspiracy. Now, we've had no denial from the royal family, no denial from Camilla. So when Camilla quite plausibly, and I would suggest justifiably, said that this American actress had brainwashed the Prince Harry, I don't think it was a deranged conspiracy. I think it was right, don't you?
I do think it's right, Kevin, and you've made a very, very valid point there, that there's not been any complaint from the palace at all, even privately or publicly, about this comment. Now, this comment was supposed to be made to a friend, one of Camilla's friends, that she felt that Meghan had brainwashed Harry. Now, if she said that to a friend, you can bet your bottom dollar that she and the King have been talking about this, and other members of the royal family as well, about what has been going on. Some of the other things in Tom Bauer's book, I mean, this is another cat among the pigeons scenario. This is a devastating allegation that he's come up with, and he's quite well placed, and there are people there who are clearly talking to him and telling what's going on behind closed doors. But we all know what's been going on, and it all seems to have started, which is something which we knew, that they decided, or Meghan decided, that was it, I'm packing up my kit and going, and you're coming with me, Harry, when she realised that she was never going to be queen. Well, she was never going to be queen in a month of Sundays. I've got more chance of being queen than she has.
Yeah, I'm just picturing you sitting next to the king in your crown.
In my tiara. Yeah. And ball gown.
Yeah.
And she just seems to have realised that she hadn't got a place in the royal family. Wrongly, I think, because I think she did have a place in the royal family. And if you remember in those early days of, when they were out together in Nottingham and everywhere else, everybody was out to see them. Everybody thought they were great. And they didn't care, her background or anything. They just thought she was a nice girl. She was a bit of an actress. That was it. But then she decided that she didn't want to be in the royal family anymore, and she took Harry with her. And you're absolutely right. Harry was a fun guy at one time. He was probably one of the most popular members of the royal family, if not the most popular member of the royal family at a specific time. All that's gone. All that has absolutely gone.
Exactly right. Now, meanwhile, the gruesome twosome, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are planning another one of their weird pretend royal tours. They've so far been to Nigeria, Colombia, and only 3 or 4 weeks ago they went to Jordan, thankfully just before the outbreak of the Middle East war. But a lot of people criticising them, saying, look, this is still the king's second son and the king's daughter-in-law, and they cannot go on these freelancing tours pretending to be royal visiting dignitaries when they're not. But this they do, God knows why. I think it's just to sort of validate themselves, really, as valid people. But they're now off to Australia, during which it just seems that mostly both of them will be hawking themselves for money.
Yeah.
Both Harry and Meghan, particularly Meghan, who's given her services to a weekend at a Sydney hotel where people would be charged more than 3,000 Australian dollars to attend dinners and speeches by Meghan. Meanwhile, Harry's taking money to make speeches and visits to various organisations. So this has gone from what might have been a pretend royal tour to a pretty vulgar, tawdry money-making exercise that I don't think does anyone any favours, does it?
You're right. And she's actually charging people. There's going to be 300 women at this event, this 3-day event, for which they are going to be paying £1,700 for that weekend. Now, that is an astonishing amount of money that you're going to get. And they're describing this as a fireside chat with Meghan. Now, this money, that's a hell of a fireside, by the way, with 300 people sitting around it. And you're also going to get a picture with Meghan. But it's not just going to be a picture of you and Meghan. It's going to be a picture of you and 300 people and Meghan. So it's not exactly, a great deal. And the other thing I'd like to mention as well is this goes to show that how they don't care about the royal family. Yet again, they've organised another so-called one of their royal tours, probably at the same time or in the same month as the king is supposed to be in America celebrating the 250th anniversary of American independence, which is a very big thing. I mean, Trump's gone out of his way to invite the king. William's going down there, I think it's late June or early July. So again, they just don't seem to care about what else is going on within the royal family. They just want to sort of cause as much problems as ever. And you're right. While Meghan's making all this dosh with her fireside chat, Harry's talking to a whole load of other people, and also I'm assuming he's going to be paid, oodles of cash as well. It really is ridiculous, the pair of them.
It's just it's cheap and tawdry. I mean, we're used to sort of watching as Harry and Meghan do spoil the reputation of the royal family, and even though they're a long way away and they're now estranged, as it were, there's no doubt that this money-spinning tour of Australia will inflict yet more reputational damage on the British royal family, because as I say, this is still the king's second son, and it is still the king's daughter-in-law, and the way they are behaving is rather desperate. But in Tom Bower's book, he says that this couple, because of their massive Montecito mansion, their private jet lifestyle, multi-millionaire lifestyle, he says they're in financial trouble, that they need $3 million a year just to cover the basic bills, and they haven't got much coming in, and hence this desperate, kind of come one, come all, roll up. It's the Meghan show, it's the Harry show. Give us some money and you can have your selfie taken with us. They are desperate for money, and that's causing embarrassment.
And she's selling jam for £10 a jar to anybody who wants it. Now, we don't know what the sales figures are because we don't get told what the sales figures are. But the rumor is that there's an awful lot of these jam jars are in some warehouse somewhere. They're not
572,000 unsold as ever items over Christmas.
Yeah, and it's patently ridiculous. What they're doing and how they're doing it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, talking of royal pariahs, let's talk just quickly, Charlie, about Sarah Ferguson. Now, I believe firmly she will write her tell-all book, because she's desperate. Talking about needing money desperately, she seriously needs money, and she has not got a pot to pee in, that's for damn sure. So she will write this book. There will be a publisher who will give her money, but also we're now hearing that she's considering an offer to take part in the next series of Celebrity Traitors. It would certainly suit her.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if this is true, I mean, I cannot believe, and you know as well as I do, there are some really mad as badgers TV executives out there in both countries, this country and in the States. But we're talking about the Celebrity Traitors in the States. I cannot believe there's one TV producer who actually wants to give her money to appear on that sort of show. I mean, their audience.
I'd tune in, wouldn't you?
I don't think I would. Actually.
I would.
Well, yeah, but I don't. I mean, look, I think she's such
a
deranged person that she would probably do it. But I'm doubtful whether someone would want to bring her in, to pay her money for it. And if she did, there would be it would just be another car crash. The whole thing would be another car crash.
Let me know, you've known Sarah Ferguson over the years, and we've all seen her falls from grace and the mistakes she's made, toe sucking, being caught trying to charge 500 grand for access to her then husband or estranged husband, Andrew, that kind of thing. She has committed or been responsible for a lot of serious mistakes in her behaviour. But these Epstein files are revealing about this woman, Sarah Ferguson. We always sort of forgave her, didn't we? Oh, jolly hockey sticks, Sarah. She's awful, but she's just a laugh. But we were wrong about this woman. The Epstein files reveal her to be a venal person with no moral structure whatsoever. Am I right?
You are absolutely right, and I've followed Fergie for many years. I've known her, I've known her very, very well, and I've followed her all her. I was going to say triumphs. There's not been that many triumphs, but I've followed all the stuff that she's done and trying to make money and everything else. And you felt a little bit sorry for her, but then along come these Epstein files, and for me, what the change for me was, I mean, apart from that, they're just disgraceful. But when we discovered that she'd taken her own two teenage daughters, out to America, to meet the man a convicted paedophile, I just thought, well, hang on a second, what mother in their right mind, or even a mind that's not right, would take their teenage daughters out to meet a paedophile? For me, that's the end as far as I'm concerned.
I think that both her and Andrew are a couple of fiends. I think they're just dreadful people. The Epstein files, we didn't have high opinions of either of them, but the Epstein files have revealed them to be, absolute scumbags, both of them. And I don't think the daughters come out of it too well either.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And they're being questioned, and things have been. There's lots of questions being asked about the daughters. I mean, I don't think it's right that you should criticise them for the sins of the father and the mother. However, there are certain things that are coming out of the Epstein files that don't show them in a terribly great light at all. And, these things will... You and I both know, Kevin, there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, there is, and that doesn't bear thinking about. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And if you think the Epstein files are bad for Peter Mandelson, which of course they are, and they're very bad for Fergie and Andy, of course, they're also going to be more and more worrying for Bea and Eugenie. You talk about that visit to see Epstein just after he got out of jail. For serving his sentence for a paedophile sex offence. You talk about that, well, these poor little girls, they weren't that, they were 19 and 20 at the time. 20, so they the suggestion is that they knew all about what their parents were up for, which is why apparently the royal family have banned them from Ascot, and they are increasingly being frozen out of the royal scene. So it isn't good for them either. But as you say, Charlie, things can only get worse. Really good to talk to you again, mate. Good to have you on the show again. Charlie Ray there, former royal editor at The Sun. Speaking of The Sun, John Lucas, the night news editor of that great paper, will be in the studio after this break to tell us what is going to be in the pages of Britain's best-selling publication tomorrow. That next. Stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. John Lucas, the night news editor of The Sun, is in the studio. He's going to tell us what's going to be in the pages of that excellent newspaper tomorrow. Welcome, John. Now, down in Kent, there's this meningitis scare going on. Hundreds of students queuing up for antibiotics at Kent University, because one of the victims was from Kent University. And The Sun will be suggesting that possibly vapes have killed this killer bug. How does that work out?
Yeah, well, absolutely. As you say, it's very, very scary for people living in that area, especially the young students and school kids, who are obviously a lot more susceptible to this. So we've seen today scenes of hundreds of people, young people, queuing up to get antibiotics, and we know that 2 people have died. So, as you say, one is a high school kid and one is a university student, and we know other people are in hospital. So we spoke today to a mum from Herne Bay whose daughter is a 21-year-old who works in the local McDonald's, and she was out on Thursday night in this. Canterbury's got this big club everyone goes to, Club Chemistry, right, it's called, and that's one of the focuses of where this
is. That where they think it may have proliferated?
Definitely where it's been.
Could have started.
Remember COVID, the idea of a super spreader event?
Yeah.
That's what the experts are saying may have happened here at Club Chem,
right,
Club Chemistry, and her daughter Keely was there, and she was saying she was vaping a lot and passing around a vape, and she went home just before midnight. Over the next couple of days, she started getting very hot, then very cold, horrible fever. She had a terrible headache, felt sick. The mum had said to Keely, "Look, just go and sleep it off." But in the night, she got up and had some sort of seizure and collapsed. Luckily, housemate called an ambulance, and she says that Keely has since been diagnosed with meningitis B. Now, that's the bacterial strain of meningitis that kids don't get vaccinated for.
Yeah, I was going to say
they didn't until 2015.
Okay,
and that's the point of why so many people, young people in that age range, seem to have fallen ill. It's not been confirmed by the doctors yet. Just have to make that absolutely clear.
Yeah, sure.
But this is what the mum is saying: is that she has been diagnosed with meningitis B, and it would make a lot of sense if that's the case, because it was only in 2015 that we started vaccinating kids. You still do get some protection against it from other vaccinations, but it's not full protection like the kids would get now. But hopefully, you know, she's getting good treatment, and that's great. But we know that there are other kids also being treated in hospital, so it's very, very worrying.
And meningitis is a shocking condition. It spreads very fast, and it can be extremely virulent. A friend of mine got it in Los Angeles and was dead within 4 days. I don't want to be too depressing, but it is bad. But meningitis is serious.
And this strain is a 1 in 10 fatality rate, and it will strike. You can get very, very sick within hours, mere hours, and you've got to be really on top of the symptoms. And that is one of the problems that they've had. Symptoms can be very.
People just think, oh, I've got a bit of a cold or something.
Similar
like
to hangovers or colds.
Yeah.
You're a bunch of students living your best life. It's not.
They're used to hangovers. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is it. You know, sadly, that does seem to be what's happened. People haven't naturally expected that they've got meningitis. So.
Well, that's okay. Well, listen, that's in the Sun tomorrow. Very worrying story. The meningitis outbreak in Kent. Let's go back to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. You got a royal story saying that he's been told by the palace to personally remove himself from the line of succession to save time and hassle. Tom Bowers saying that, and he's been talking to your editor at large, Harry Cole, on the back of his new book.
That's right. Yeah. Well, very well respected. Royal author Tom Bower, equally very well respected editor at large Harry Cole, had this chat, and obviously we know Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has got lots of legal issues hanging over him, so got to be slightly careful with all that. But it's been going on for a long time. His titles are gradually being stripped away further and further. Technically, he hasn't really got any titles now, but he's still in the line of succession. And part of the issue with this is it would need legislation to remove him from it. And not just legislation here, but you need all 15 Commonwealth realms to...
Oh, is that right?
To sign off on
But
it.
he can, according to Tom, he can declare himself to no longer be in the line of succession, and then he's out.
He can resign, technically. And the way, I think the way Tom Bowles putting it is a bit of a Sicilian... an offer you can't refuse. If you remember in The Godfather when Tom Hagen visits, well, I won't get into it, but when he visits the guy in prison and says, look, there's only one way out for you.
Exactly right.
You've got to walk, and that's what has been apparently told to Andrew. So we'll have to see whether Tom is right on that one.
So Harry, or rather Andy Mountbatten Windsor, has now been asked to do the decent thing. I wouldn't hold out too many hopes on that front. Right, I like your last story. A posh cafe has been slammed for £1.50. It was selling 6 blueberries. £1.50 for 6 blueberries.
Yeah, you think the price of petrol, the price of oil is going through the roof. Try being health conscious person who just wants to have some porridge and blueberries in the city of London. £1.50 they're charging for 6 blueberries. So that equates to £75 a kilo. At a cafe. It's not
£75, and that comes on the top of your porridge. And this is, you can buy this at a place called Blend, which is in the 62-storey skyscraper at 22 Bishopsgate.
Yeah, look, if people want to pay ridiculous money for things, they're more than welcome. But as we know, it could be a bit sneaky because you just tap for everything. So people don't really know what they're tapping for. They say, yeah, I'll have those. They're tapping, they're not looking. And, it's another example of what we're always looking at, shrinkflation.
Exactly.
Consumers not getting a good deal. And, we cover lots and lots of these things. We did, recently we did a cafe doing a normal flat white for a tenner because they had some sort of special
flat white
frozen milk. We've done Britain's Priciest burger, £300 beef burger. So we're always on the lookout for these things, and obviously if our readers are out there and they spot something crazy like this,
give the Sun a ring. Give the Sun a ring. Just got some breaking news here, John, which pertains to what you were talking about, the meningitis outbreak. This is serious, folks, serious. Anyone who visited Club Chemistry in Canterbury on March the 5th, 6th or 7th should come forward for preventative antibiotic treatment as a precautionary measure. This is from the UK Health Security Agency. That follows the meningitis outbreak in Kent. So that's serious. If you were apparently it's a big club, as John was just explaining, Club Chemistry in Canterbury on March the 5th, 6th or 7th, for God's sake, come forward for preventative antibiotic treatment as a precautionary measure. Very important, that. Big thanks to John Lucas, night news editor at The Sun. Next up, we'll finish the show with a few calls and WhatsApp voice notes, and I'll read some messages from all of you. 0344 499 1000. That next. Stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So little time and so much still to do. Peter Cardwell will be in just a second to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. In the meantime, we'll try and get a phone call or two in just a second, but we've got voice notes and I always promise to play them out. So here's Rich on Ed Miliband.
Hello, Kev. Rich from Llanelli here. Great programme as always. You say that Ed Miliband is deranged. That's putting it mildly. But what do you expect from a man whose father claimed his job was to be a Marxist philosopher and worked at Oxford University? So he's really down with the people, isn't he? And also, young Ed, of course, is famous for having 2 kitchens in his house. So, again, really keeping in touch with the common people, eh? Great programme. Keep up the good work. Bye.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, down with the kids, eh? Keeping it real. Good, isn't it? Here's Bill on Starmer having principles.
Hello, Kev. Bill in Telford here. Starmer and principles in the same sentence. Who'd have believed it? Absolute cobblers. The man hasn't got any principles. He's an absolute scoundrel. Can't stand the man.
I agree. Here's Pete on the Iran war.
Hey, it's Pete from Lancashire. I'm glad we've not got involved militarily. Well, we have, haven't we? I'm all support. I'm in all support, mate. You know, if needed, you know, get him in our armed forces. But I think Starmer, deep down, mate, he's worried about how many people are over here, undocumented fighting age males. And I think you'd see civil unrest like you'd never seen it before if we physically went into Iran fighting. Just my opinion, mate, but I think there'd be chaos, mate. Anyway, take care, bye.
With you, Pete. But you know, this thing about, I think he's right not to get us involved in the war. We weren't asked to be in the war. You've got to stop letting him lie to us like that. We were not invited. We were just asked, can we borrow a couple of runways? And ridiculously, damagingly, he said no before changing his mind, as he always does. Let's quickly go to the phones. Let's talk to Simon in Durham. Hello, Simon.
Hi there, you all right?
Yeah, good. What would you like to say?
Yeah, just we're a small business operating in County Durham, employing 15. We got an email 3 days ago from our electric company telling us our daily standing charge is going to go up by 165%.
165%.
To cover the costs of the energy network getting net zero by 2030.
God almighty. And that must be really worrying for your business, Simon.
Well, it's just straight away. It's just a cost that comes at you and there's nothing you can do about it. The government has sanctioned these charges starting on the 1st of April 2026.
It's just ridiculous, Simon. I mean, you know, all we can hope for is that this government, maybe circumstances will force them to abandon this net zero insanity, but don't bet the farm on it anytime soon. Sorry to hear that, Simon. Very good call. Thank you. Simon in Durham, couple of messages. Here's from Tom. Kev, this is the reason the multiculturalism experiment is a failure and why Islamic pro-Iranian extremism has grown, because for too long the police and politicians have looked the other way. That's Tom in Pontypridd. He's right, isn't he? That's what we saw yesterday in central London. The police looking the other way as Bob Villan and all the gang break the law again. Break the hate crime laws, and the police do nothing about it. If the police don't do anything about it, how is it going to stop? Ridiculous. Peter Cardwell is in the studio. Yeah, big problems, eh?
Huge problems. Samara's reporting was superb, and we're going to have her on my programme as well, actually, to talk us through that if you missed any of it. Pascal Robinson Foster, this absolutely anti-Semitic scumbag, allowed to get away with not just saying it at Glastonbury, he wasn't even arrested, no charges were brought, and here we are again, and he knows he can just say this stuff. He knows he can just say it.
He shouldn't be able to.
Yes, but he's saying it with impunity. He knew he's
because Avon and Somerset police took 6 months to decide that a criminal threshold had not been reached.
Exactly.
He is calling for the violent death of people because of their religion and race.
It wasn't just Avon and Somerset, it was the Crown Prosecution Service as well, but they're as bad as each other. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also talk about Trump's comments about Starmer for